Intention creates.
Yo. 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 Yo.
What is going on, everyone? It's David Palmer, the Leo King, and Human Design Maven, and we are back after 3 years continuing our conversation in human design with now a new dawn. We were at before dawn and we're at a new dawn. What's going on? How you doing, Dylan?
The dawn is here, and so are we. It's great to be back.
I'm beyond excited to honestly have you back and us be together. It's mainly us together to synergize. So much has happened in the last 3 years, but at the same time, I feel like there's also like this steady, similar vibration of what we're coming into that hasn't gone away. Of everything we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think so many of the things that we were just beginning to feel in 2022 turned out to be very accurate, and the trajectories that we were really just guiding ourselves through at the time turned out to be real. And now we're at this new vantage point of being able to, look at this new dawn and take this opportunity. I think that's what really feels most alive for me right now, is that we kind of got through some shit, and now it's like, what are we going to do with this?
Those are very good points, because I feel like, what are we going to do now? Because so much has happened as well. Because what we did say, it was like a very surreal moment, 2022, like in this weird bubble. And there was a lot of confusion in the world. And of course, the stuff we were talking about was like way like, woo, which I love that. I will cherish those episodes we did. Like, and the fact that we did them at that time. Mm-hmm. And I feel like where we're at now, I guess I want to ask you first, like, where do you feel like we're at now? Because it is such another moment that has a similar vibe of like what's going on, but it's much louder now. It's much more intense, I would say. I think people thought back then it was intense, but like, I think people now are really realizing, oh, this stuff actually might be true, right?
Right. And I mean, even back then you were saying, this is just the lobby, folks.
Right.
And I think that was accurate, because we were still very much comfortable in this cross of planning. So in human design, we have these 400-ish year cycles, and they give us the background energy that's basically motivating everybody on earth to act and live and decide in a certain way. And the whole thing about 2027 is that in 2027, this cycle is over. So the motivations, the ways that we've come together, the things that have bound us together are dissipating. And that doesn't mean that we are not going to connect anymore. It just means that there's going to be a new reason to connect. And so I think right now, what is showing up is that it's undeniable, the change that's happening. And there are like two choices that you have. You kind of run towards the change and trust that you can figure it out and make your alliances and set like your new kind of trajectory to move through what some people might call chaos. Or you can stick your head in the sand and have an even ruder awakening later. So I think we're at this choice point of like, do you trust yourself to be capable in the face of massive change? And do you trust life, your higher self, the universe, whatever it is that you call it, to be your co-creative partner in the decisions that need to be made now? And can you make bigger decisions than you've ever had to make? Because there's been so much of this societal safety net that's been cushioning us, and it's given us so much fluff that's allowed us to stay in our amnesia and kind of atrophy. You know, we haven't had as much of this survival energy running through our veins. But when you look at 2027, the cross of the sleeping phoenix, half of that cross is the 3420 channel, which is about individual survival, individual empowerment. And does it mean we get reduced to the dark ages immediately and we're just, spearing mammoths? No. It means that we have to be able to act on in our best interest 100% of the time, and not let beliefs, conditioning, external, feelings of what other people are thinking or seeing us do stop us from doing what needs to be done. And so I think right now it's that initiation into getting used to doing what needs to be done yesterday.
Right. Well, I was going to say, those two choices really are being your strategy and authority, or your not self.
Right.
Right? Because the layers of the not self, you and I were talking before we did this about, we were catching up on stuff, even though we're always talking, but it's just when you're in person again and we're catching up, and it's just I never really thought these layers of the not self run in the cross of planning, and so many, there's the people pleasing aspects. Mm-hmm. There's these other things. So I think sometimes maybe the mechanics of human design and what's going to happen and the systems falling, we can get really caught up into that. And it made me realize, since we did our show last, that there's all these societal not self-programmings that maybe were part of the strategy and authority in a cross of planning, but as this is leaving and these systems are falling, the conditioned and programmed ideologies, ways to live your life, how you're supposed to be, those things I'm feeling are somewhat not just stronger than maybe a fear of
disapproval, whatever.
Yeah, those things are really, I think, what is causing it to feel like what you just said, you need to be on it yesterday. Yeah. It's because of those kind of deep spiritual program, not self things,
They're entities at this point, not to make it superstitious or anything, but when a thought form or a program that runs through a human being, or many millions or billions of human beings, lives for centuries with the same kind of pattern again and again and again, it takes on a life of its own. Mm-hmm. And then it's, there are whole institutions, or there are whole traditions, or, whatever, just even neural pathways that are connected to these certain kinds of not self patterns. And they're so heavily ingrained that they do kind of control, they do kind of run the show. It's like when you have a parasite in the body, it's originally there to eat up the toxicity. It's originally showing up for to balance the system. But once that being gets so heavily embedded with toxicity, it doesn't want to leave. It doesn't want to just, be purged. It wants to maintain its home, its environment, and its vitality, and it'll hack the system to do that. And that's exactly what's happened with societal structures, with our bodies, with the way that we distribute food and the foods that we eat as a society, en masse.
Yes.
There's so much there where it's not necessarily a specific nefarious, secret society that's controlling. It's actually just the same decision, not self-decision, that's been made so many millions of times that it's become its own self-aware thing that's fighting for its survival too now through us. And so that's the thing, is you can't afford to be co-opted by these not self forces, because they will block you from making the right decisions for you on a survival or a spiritual survival level going forward.
Yeah, and I think we are in a very interesting window right now, because you're the human design master, okay, and Maven. So if I'm correct, Pluto in Aquarius at the 60th gate left this year.
Yeah, finally.
But as it's retrograde, I know it comes back to 1 degree of Aquarius, and that means it comes back to the gate of restriction, correct?
Yeah, limitation. Mm-hmm.
Limitation. Which actually, I look at that as a very positive gate of the real powerful work in this process. Because we felt so much of that, because there's been so many major transits through that gate over this last 5 years, that I feel that's kind of the gate of 2020, in my opinion. The 60th gate is to me, That's 2020.
Yeah.
Like that's what the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction was. We saw the Pluto and Capricorn leave into Aquarius there. We've just seen so much. And like, I feel like this moment as we're talking in June, as we're still not in that, we're about to come back into that gate, but we're not in that gate. I feel like right now, this is that moment. Like you said, you got to get on this now. And you actually said you should have been on it yesterday. Because these systems, I like how you say they're using us to kind of operate them now. It's almost like these like programmed structures are self-operating through us. And that's why I think people maybe are afraid of AI, because they're what AI is reflecting what we're doing, right? Like we're actually an AI programmed, machine learned by what the information has been. And we're knowing how to get quicker and quicker and spitting out the same way that conditions, programmed conditional like aspects in our own psyche and the way that we live are getting faster, and the models are getting more diverse and quicker. And it's like, yeah, you need to get on it now about like, this is not about anymore where it's a possibility, in my opinion. It's like, you can see, if you are aware, you can see that it's not even that the systems are coming down. They're already down, and it's the illusion that they're still working.
Yeah.
Like, like they're not functioning. Everything's on life support through those systems using our energy to keep them alive in a kind of crazy, like false way. Cause I don't see them alive. I see them as broken, not working. I don't see one person happy walking into a DMV.
Right.
I don't see anybody I know who's truly spiritual going, yeah, sign me up for the real ID.
Right.
Right? Sign me up for money. You're hearing every state, local, and federal now, we're bankrupt. And so everybody thinks, well, there's this golden dawn of era of money, and we're just going to all come together and all make a lot of money together. And as a 2034 gate myself, I know, hey, there's no such thing as that. I always, no matter, even if somebody came along with a lot of money, you still got to figure it out on your own. I don't know what you feel about that part of it, but I feel like there is a coercion right now of like, don't worry, some other group is going to take care of everyone here, and everybody's going to be okay.
Well, that's the dream. That's the dream that the cross of planning sells you, which is, yeah, just commit to our tribe, and you'll be protected and cared for and nourished. And like, so many things came up while you were just saying all that. Like when we look at what the cross of planning is and what it's no longer going to be, we can see that, okay, at the end of these big cycles, they cling on the hardest. We see the definitive themes of each cycle get the most intense right before they dwindle away. And like we were saying before the show, like what really drove all of these systems? It was the people. It was us. It was our energy, our willingness, our belief in a certain way of life, and a certain way of securing our livelihood and securing our safety. And so it was actually all our energy that created this entire illusion. And now that we're moving into a space where those structures are literally like, if they were like giant virtual, structures in the sky that made this all possible, they're dwindling away, and our true energy is returning to us, or we're feeling how much it's been stolen from us essentially by these false beliefs, these false security, these suggestions of security that we're going to get if we feed into the system. It's the mirage is dissolving. Yeah. And we're all also beginning to feel ourselves more than ever, because 2027 is the age of the solar plexus, becoming an awareness center. We've been caught up in this joyride of sensation and desire and the promise on the horizon of what might happen if I go after that dream. And that's the whole 41, 30, 36, 35 human experiential way. that's going to break down in 2027.
Right.
This whole even emotional drive to build something or achieve something or become somebody is reconfiguring. It's deconstructing itself. And the whole meaning of what it is to be alive as a human is going to change because it's becoming more unity. It's becoming more communal. It's not about the exchange and the bargain. It's about everybody being connected into a centralized system, whether that's an AI-driven quantum computer system, a smart city, or whether that's a eco-village that's built around 3 rave babies that are actually able to share consciousness with everyone in that community and kind of know the needs of the tribe better than any individual could, right? So it's like we're redefining what makes life good, like in real time. And there are people that have really defined that by money and what value they've like affirmed in themselves through the money they were able to create through providing a solution or creating a movement or whatever. And so it's like, that's the interesting place we find ourselves at, is like the definitions are being rewritten in real time. We are the authors. It's no longer an external author that's saying, okay, just jump into this system, play this role, and you'll be safe and good for your entire lifetime. Now it's like every day, every breath, every year ahead of us is up to us to write. And that's the 3420, is finding that energy in the moment and going for it and feeling that your life force is saying yes, because your life force is connected to the greater intelligence of life. It's not just your sacral being like, oh, I want that. No, it's like, it's a part of a bigger order of things. And that's the cool thing about strategy and authority. No matter what your type or your inner authority is, like, you are tapping into an intelligence greater than your rational mind when you use that to navigate. And that's why it's a better strategy in an uncertain world.
Yeah. And I feel like everything you said, like, because the way these systems are, to me, the way you put it so eloquently, and then I'm looking at it like, it's really mind-boggling to me now that people are really using their not self truly to keep them up. And I think that's what makes
the crazy part.
The craziest part of 2027 in the approach, is that the amount of people that will be in their not self, having that moment where the energy is returned back to them. But if you're in the not self, it's almost like a great stumble that I think humanity is about to go through, because if there's a lot of people in their not self and they don't know what their strategy and authority is, so they won't know how to react to it, and then they'll come from a not self of trying to fix it when it's already been far beyond gone.
Right. It's like,
if that makes sense.
Totally.
Like,
it's almost like the neurology and the biology of like an addict, somebody who's been running on this not self system, which includes, nerve impulses and your endocrine system. And like the not self is just, it's not just an idea. It's not just a concept. It's not just a thought in your head. It's a whole program that runs the machine of the body. And so like, it kind of, when you were saying that, it kind of reminded me of that idea of like revelations in the Bible. That's not my department at all, but where, everyone kind of goes up in this flash of fire and gets this chance to like be reborn and gets to like, measure up to their sins and then try again and like receive a new body. And it's like in 2027, it's like a global detox of the not self, because the not self is a parasitic consciousness.
right.
It's just using you and your hardware and your soul energy to carry out a program. We don't even have to say if it's good or bad. It's just not the true one. It's not the organic one. It's not the one from God. It's a tangent of a tangent of a tangent of a tangent that has become self-aware and wants to maintain its life force and control. So the phoenix rises, it burns all that shit away, and we get a chance to try again, to start again from default, from the strategy and authority we were born with. Or the crazy part is some people will have such withdrawals from living as the not self, they won't know how to move forward. They'd rather go back to the comfort of the not self rather than be like blinded by the spectrum of possibility that comes with living as your authentic self or your design.
I was going to say, because the solar plexus is really the point to look at, it's like, it makes me look at it as like this moment where humanity emotionally has this extreme raw, open, even though it's defined. So it makes you have to really like express the emotion too. So I think there'll be a lot of emotion, right?
Right.
But I think there's that rawness that will come, which I think that's what's been lacking. This cross of planning is, you know, what I've noticed since 2020 and every year that's gone by over the last 5 years is like, finally, and this is the positive, is it's been watching people like you and I. Our talk was about our personal lives and our care about that, and going, okay, we just got to go do this light work shit. It's not about what's the next big thing that you're accomplishing, and
right.
Like, it's like, where are you at? How are you doing? What's going on with that? How's our friend doing? How's this doing? That's when I'm like, thank God we're at that place, because to be honest with you, the system of I need to feel accomplished in order to be accepted in the system. And it's kind of like a login code or something. You know?
In order for me to even appreciate myself, I need to feel like I've achieved something in the eye of the world, you know, on that bigger like societal Capricorn scale. And it's like, that's that root of perfectionism. And the reason perfectionism never creates satisfaction is because it's rooted in self-disapproval. It's like we're trying to build on this inherent sense of like that we're not worthy and that we're not good enough. And that's what the cross of planning exploited, because it had in the chart of the cross of planning, the heart center, the place of the deepest conditioning of humanity around our worthiness and just our security, our ability to be alive and not be killed as a living thing, is directly connected to the emotions. So all of our feelings, our nervous system, like what we care about, those two things were bonded for the entire cross of planning, meaning that if you didn't, you know, give your all and prove that you were worthy of the love of the tribe or the value of the dollar, you couldn't feel good enough. You could never feel what you needed to feel until you got that done. Then you could maybe be free. And that's that whole like scheme of get to the retirement and then you can start your life and then you can feel your feelings. But until then, suck it up.
And that reminds me, because of that ego center, right? That it's so funny that that's actually the technical term. That the most people since 1618 to now, the one thing that you hear the most about death is heart attack. Right. Like it's like, if you look in history, it's like you never hear about, yeah, they probably died of a heart attack, that person from like 1500 years ago, and you see people living really old in all these old time periods. But in this like sliver, it's like people go, oh, it's because of like the way that modern medicine, so class of like planning is what made us live longer. It's like, I look back and I go, Benjamin Franklin with gout, who like drank like a fish and was like, you know, doing it. That guy lived into his 80s. Like if you look at like founding fathers, right? It's like they all lived old, right? But at the time, it's still like the average person lived only like 49 or 51 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like at the Chiron return, which is kind of funny. Right. But it's like, there's something about like, when you have that deeper mission in the cross of planning and it's not about proving yourself, it's just like, you know what, I'm here to do this work. That's where I feel like the spiritual work we talk about in the spiritual community of like just really just doing the spiritual work without it being like you just described, like a not self, like just do the work and don't enjoy life kind of energy. And then ironically, most people retire and they die of a heart attack within the first year or 2 years, because we really aren't. That's what's kind of weird about the cross of planning, is you kind of do have to keep this, even if it's the spiritual work, you gotta be keeping the system going somehow. But now that it's
paying your energetic taxes,
it's just wild to me that it's going to move to this more focus on the solar plexus, because like I'm not connected to that place, But my question to you is somebody like emotional beings. Is it to where people are going to start feeling stuff they've never felt before, like energetically, because that center, and I love the ego and the heart center. I like seeing somebody with it, and I can totally see it in their chart because I have mine undefined.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole life till I really went through my 7 years, right, of understanding human design and all that, to really go, I don't need to prove myself here, right? I tried to prove myself by reality. We all know. I don't even have to say it anymore. I don't even have to prove it now. For that to be not the focus, it makes me so interested now in, like, from you really doing this work so much, what do you think that's going to feel like now? That becoming the focus out of this like long 400-year cycle we've been in.
Well, the reason the Sleeping Phoenix in 2027 is so multifacetedly interesting is because it's also the end of the era of the mind. So, you know, in terms of like these longer cycles that are, 12,000 years, 26,000 years, like we've been in the hardcore developmental phase of the ajna, like get to 100% of the capacities of this mind to process, to store memory, to project an idea out into the world and create it and materialize it in 3D. Like we're doing the full experience of the ajna. And as we step into 2027, that's only our third dimensional mind is what I really want to say. And so when we step into the solar plexus, no longer being so busy in its development phase and opening into its awareness phase, we're stepping into consistent access to the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions of our awareness and our consciousness. So there are new experiences there. There's less individuality in the sense that, which is another oxymoron because there's so much individuality in the chart of the cross of the Sleeping Phoenix. But in terms of how we connect and experience ourselves, it's less about the illusion of separateness. And it's more about the recognition that consciousness flows through all things and that we have more access to shared consciousness at these higher dimensional levels of functioning. So right now, this whole conversation could be telepathic and even like telepathically recorded, or anybody who is actually looking at us, even if it was through a screen, could know what's going on.
I was going to say that it reminds me that crossive planning is not messy. Nobody wants to come across messy. Nobody, right? And then whenever I think of an emotional anything, I'm like, messy, but that's not a bad thing, right? You actually are expressing your feelings. You're not bottling them up. You're letting them out. And I think that it's going to get messy where you can't put on a mask of I'm Mr. and Mrs. Perfect anymore. It's going to be like, I can see and feel and tap in, and it's going to get messy too, because people who are in their not self or have undefined solar plexuses, right? We can react off people's emotions because we have it undefined and be like, oh, so I think it's going to be like very like messy, but I think that's kind of the way we get back into the humanity that maybe we've all never got to experience, but we all subconsciously know we need to go through and need in order to even survive. Because maybe that's when we talk about survival, maybe more of the survival is that needing for it to get more emotionally messy and us to be more in each other's vibes more, opposed to like the end of cross of planning. It's so clear, like nobody even knows their neighbor anymore. Nobody fucking goes in person. Nobody does shit. It's wild to watch it just go clamp down so hard.
And it's because the cross of planning has been about the plan, and emotions don't go by the plan. And that's why they're messy. Like they just don't fit into the construct that the cross of planning was all about logic and just getting the resources. It was like, get the people, get the skills, get the resources, accumulate. So that's what we've seen. And that accumulation is something that isn't, universally beneficial. It gets concentrated by certain groups who have the means to do that. And we're seeing the intensification of that at the end of the cross of planning. But then we think about just since 2020 and all the people that are watching right now, we all have gone through our own deep emotional process. You could say it's emotion. It's partly spiritual. It's partly past life incarnational. It's partly emotional. It's all these things that are the parts of our consciousness that we can't see in the mirror, you know, but have so much influence on our experience of this world, of our relationships, of our own, you know, identity and our ability to love ourselves and to authorize ourselves to make a bold move or whatever. We've all like had all that stuff shaken up over the past 4 years, 5 years to create space. Because if we go into this unity consciousness and we're all sharing consciousness, but there's 500 lifetimes of repressed emotional baggage per person, it's just going to be like, it's going to be so loud and crowded with unexpressed energy is what it is in its most simplest form. And so I think like a lot of what the intelligence of a lot of the things that are happening in the 3D right now that are getting us to like feel weird and get scared or do something differently or ask questions is to actually just shake us up so that we can clear the space for this new, it's like a new operating system that's coming.
Right.
Not to say that everything is computerized and technological. I don't mean that, but it is a new system of how we as humans operate, connect, share, navigate, etc. And, you know, like all of us that are already here, we have a certain frequency. Yes, it has the ability to change and transform, but it's really going to be the new kids. It's going to be the raves that are really bringing in the new solar plexus frequency. We're still going to be playing out what we were born with,
right?
You know, and that's just life. You know, we can't necessarily just, okay, but I'm going to transform into a rave and, you know, have all these abilities.
Right.
And even if you did, there would be huge trade-offs. We can see that there's like nonverbal autistic people that have a really hard time functioning in this society of the left brain and the focus and the strategic, but they have these really, you know, captivating capacities and abilities that are starting to show up more and more. And it's like,
well, maybe that opens the space for true empathy, which I don't think maybe we've seen because the society doesn't allow it and the structures don't fully allow it. Meaning like people will actually be like, oh, I actually like see you because I have that's going to be the other thing is time. I think is so connected with the cross of planning is time. That's like you're going to have the not time to be able to fully see somebody, not the self-projected kind of versions that we create based off society. Like, oh, you know, they're not doing too good. They're not living over here now. They're doing right. It's so like weighing out the hierarchical structure all the time. Like, well, they're doing it at their job. Well, they just went on retirement. They're on Social Security now. And so we base the person's whole soul's kind of like conditioned version that we tuck away as another file of a person in our anja. Like we know how to we understand how everybody
credit score.
Yeah. And I think like as Ra said, at the end of this and in the beginning, that all information will be at its peak moment, which that's why I haven't been afraid of this whole AI thing. Cause I'm like, well, let's get it all now. Cause it's going to get cut.
Get it. Yeah.
And that reminds me of where it gets messy is people being like, but there's no more info. It's like, what do you mean? We're here. We got all of it. That's the idea of the singularity that's happening right now. Like to me, that's not a scary moment. That means that this prophecy is exactly playing in the exact moment and the timing is perfect.
Right.
You know? So.
And the ego hates the thought of not being individual, you know, and that's our fear of the singularity. It's like, oh, I'm going to be swallowed up into this, whatever it is. I don't want that. But it's like, well, that's just your kind of seven-centered ego self fearing it doesn't exist and fearing like this idea of death. But that's the cool part about the veil that we're crossing is like, if all consciousness is shared, then even those aspects of consciousness that don't have a body the spirit world that, you know, indigenous cultures and people of, you know, mystical nature for as long as time has gone, as we've always known, there is this mystical component. It's just the consciousness that isn't tied to a body. And we're going to be able to connect to all of that. We're going to see the whole ecosystem that extends out past the physical for what it is. And we're going to start to experience it more and more and really understand where these things come from, ghosts and angels and aliens and guides and all this stuff. Like, it's going to make us laugh because our current rendition of it will look so simplistic and superstitious when we finally realize what it is. It's like we're calling it a spirit guide or whatever, but like from that heightened perspective, it's the same thing as like walking by a plant. It's just like another piece of consciousness that's there. And
it's not a like in the 80s and 90s a VHS tape that caught a UFO.
Right.
That we need to know that I saw it on VHS, or now I saw it on X or on TikTok in my phone for sure, and somebody captured it. That's so cross the planning, in my opinion. Of like, it has to be captured, it has to be on the structure, it has to be uploaded, it has to have a lot of views for people to then go, well, maybe it's true. Like
and
instead of like
in the same
what
city need to upload the video too.
Exactly.
And,
I think that's the crazy part, in my opinion, is like that whole like if you actually look at those experiences, ghosts, angels, they're all not because of what you saw on a video or in a system. It's a personal thing that you experience. And it's usually when you're with friends and people that you are genuinely fully in the self with, acting on strategy authority, that those are when those mystical experiences happen, and they're not ever captured. It's always the thing like, man, I wish somebody was recording this moment, right? We say that all the time, but no, it was never meant to be, because it's too pure to get caught up into this system that knows it's going to die. Maybe in the old days, when the cross planning started, those things were meant to be captured in that system and be part of it. But I feel like everything right now that's spiritually aware is like decoupling itself. And so that's where I really get kind of interested, because I think people are like, that idea of the clinging on to the very end. I'm seeing that a lot. Like, this is the moment and you got to cling harder, and we're gonna see a UFO, and like the way they think of it is like, or a UAP is like on a fucking video, and the government's gonna come out on camera and tell you it. Like, based off this, none of that's gonna happen.
Yeah. There's going to be a press conference, and they're going to be our saviors, and they're going to explain everything that we don't understand to us. And there's going to be a happy ending, and there's going to be free energy, and that's where all the money that everyone's talking about is going to come from. It's like, that's a little too easy. And that's what the cross of planning has been driving you and impulsing you and molding you to want. Because if you're always looking for this specific finite endpoint result to your efforts in this life, you can be strung along and manipulated a little bit more to pull some more energy from you to put into the bigger system of whatever this is. And I think that's a really funny thing too, that's kind of like fizzle, is this idea of the ultimate truth of life finally being understood. I think what I've been seeing and just realizing more and more about life itself is that it doesn't actually have one explanation. It doesn't actually have one core truth that just explains the whole system. And we seek that because our minds are built that way, but it's actually a very fluid and random experience, consciousness itself. And it's almost, it's ephemeral. It's not like coming from one source and it's all one way and everything is built upon these core laws. Yeah, there are definitely patterns, but life is more dreamlike than we give it credence for. And I think the more that you can embrace that, it can take the edge off of these megalithic things crashing around you, because it's just part of the dream. And you are equally as able to create something absurd of a solution in the dream or a different path in the dream. Like, you're not locked in here by what is apparently visible around you. And it doesn't always just work one way. And I think that's something that's going to become even more widely. It's like the dream is going to get so much weirder in the Cross of the Sleeping Phoenix, because all this rigidity and all these rules and all these structures, physical and mental and the like, are going to be gone. And so it's like, what would you like to do instead, everybody? And the not self addicted person will be like, I don't know. I just want to go back to that comfortable confines of that identity that I had before.
Right.
And then the other choice is moment by moment, what's going to get created through us? If we, like, the idea of strategy and authority is just being in tune with your body and being in tune with the cosmos. We live in a cosmos that by nature is gift giving. It wants to bless us. It wants us to fulfill our unique purpose. It wants to help us differentiate into who we are.
Right.
And we unfortunately get conditioned and we get in our own way because it feels safer.
Big time.
So it's about taking this metaphorical binky out of our mouths as a species, as a consciousness, and opening up to, okay, what if we take the training wheels off? Yeah, it's a scary open road, but also it's full of possibility. It's full of, how would you do it if you could do it your way? If everything else sucks so bad and it's so restraining and trapping and, you know, exploitative, well, then let's do it a different way. And like what we were sharing in the beginning, like, we're also coming back to the fact that being human is not this super complex thing at the end of the day. It's very fundamental, earthy truths that make life good. And we all know what they are. So if all this stuff goes away, but we still have us, we can just bring that stuff together. And like, farmers farm. Those are not imaginary super beings. Anybody can farm. You know? Hunters hunt, you know, builders build. Like, that's still the basic blocks of life.
Yeah, and they all have to find a way to come together and exchange. Is just going to be a completely different way, a more real way of doing it. I have a great example since we did our show. I'm a dad now. Yeah. So of course we didn't follow the plan, didn't vaccinate Aurora, and you know, people freak out about that stuff, but it's so funny because the system still comes at you. I never realized that the fucking baby industry, that you need to get this and that and this and that. And so Sophia and I go through this, and you don't use 90% of what you're supposed to get for a newborn. You don't even use it. Humans are pretty simple. Diapers, change, mama, dad, sleep. Like all these like big extra things, you just realize like that we don't even use it, or the baby doesn't even want it. The biggest one to me though was sleep. It was interesting because it's like, you know, we tried the whole crib thing at the beginning and it just, one, it didn't feel right. And there's so much data now on the stress of at that young age when you're from 0 to 1, that like we are set on our path on how we are raised at that age and how we're comforted and all that stuff. And so we did the co-sleeping thing, and you know, there's all the videos when you search it or anything, it's all negative. It's like your kid can die. I'm talking like it's like you are like blacklisted. It was actually the most pure, natural thing ever. And our daughter just instantly everything's just better, normal. And then because we're about to have our son in the next week or two, you know, we're like, okay, we got to get her in a bed now just because the co-sleeping, there's not going to be, we're going to have another baby. And maybe we could do all 4, but you know, the second I made her bed, her emotional generator, I did it with her, and she was like, boom, every night, she loves her room. She wants to be in her bed. Mm-hmm. So it's like that whole, like, it's going to be really hard to get your kid after you try to do co-sleeping in bed. So they use that as like the end part too, is like selling you on this plan of time of like, by the time you get to a place when it needs to get over. So they scare you at the beginning and they scare you at the end. And then you need to do this and you need to put them down at this time. And there was this one like doula mom video that blew my mind. She's just like, if you're out with your family and friends and it's past their bedtime, just let them stay up with you. And then they go to bed when you do or whatever. It's just like, there's no...
it's life.
It's life, right? And it's just like, I learned, and I think my wife, I speak with her, we learned so much from just following our strategy and authority with raising our child.
And being present.
Yeah. And it made it, I can't even describe night and day But that first couple weeks of trying to do it the way that they tell you to, insane. And then it makes you actually look at, that's how when a kid is told to their parents and they can finally speak about, I had a dream. It's like, oh, it's just a dream. Just get back to sleep. Just get back in there. I got to go to work. I got to go to, like that's what's, I've been experiencing life on a whole different level. And for me, it's been the most beautiful level ever to see it in those spaces now. Like, whoa. And that shows me like how much it is ingrained in every part of society in our lives. Cause like that was a new place for me to go. So you kind of think, oh, I've seen it all. And then you're like, it's even in this part of life? It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, even in birth itself.
Yeah.
There's so much systemic control, conditioning, programming, like you need to do it this way or something terrible is going to happen. And it's like, this stuff is new. Like human beings were having children
the whole time
in whatever setting they were in. And we all made it here without all that extra nonsense. And right. It's probably actually, if you really looked at real data, all that stuff would probably be more, all the modern stuff, more toxic, more injuring, more.
It is. It technically is.
It totally is. Like,
it puts more anxiety and stress. And because if we've been in this Anja building to its peak, it makes more sense to me that from 0 to 1, the more stress on you as an infant hardwires your amygdala when it's not supposed to turn on yet.
Yeah.
When you're that young. And that's why we're seeing at 12 to 14 in adolescence, kids now having manic, panic disorders, bipolar, that's why the mental health crisis is starting so young. And so it's also with daycare. The number one cause of anxiety, it's like a 95% guarantee your kid is going to have a mental health problem is in daycare.
Right.
Because every other society outside of Western culture, they hold their babies and are still farming. They're around community and you don't let your kid off you. They're with you everywhere. This whole idea of like, you have to go to this place with people you don't know and they are going to just take care of you and tell you what to do is the worst thing to the mind when you're developing an Anja and all parts that you could literally do to any human being. So it actually is like extremely gnarly that it's like people always look at the bad things people are doing in life, yet people are kind of like subconsciously raising the children over the last 400 years. Like, yeah, even the kings of the old day, the old manifestors that were there, just like, yeah, go to this house now and they're going to take care of you there because I don't want to deal with you. And plus you're the child of the other woman that was the mistress, Like all this kind of stuff is really wild in every corner, but people aren't looking at like, we can move through this in a much more way you described of like, we are human. We know how to do this stuff. It's all this extra stuff that really has crowded the space and it's overwhelmed. And everybody, I think, feels this like feeling of trapped. The way you described moving through dreams, like that's exactly how we are fluid in this life. And I do feel that when we get to these moments, because as an astrologer, it lines up perfectly with where Ra has put it in an understanding and where everything's at, because these are those moments that, yes, they're in between, but they're also fully setting in a new direction. And in those moments are the moments I feel that we really have the actual deepest and most rarest moments of humanity to actually make true, like more free will choices than ever before. It's a predetermined event at the most extreme of predetermined, but that would mean that it is opening a gateway that's never usually it's not a gateway that you get to hear much. That's why you're hearing about, oh, the government time travels now and they're creating Stargate. And that's not a coincidence at the same time we're coming into this.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Totally. I think I mean, I was brought back just now to like what you said earlier. When the solar plexus opens, it feels like it's such a like, whoa, I can actually feel now. And all of this, it's like having a new receptor activate. If you have 9 centers in your body, those are basically all receptors, depending on what you have defined. But it's like having this whole new receptor crack open collectively at one time.
Right.
And all the things that we were so ingrained and in this groove with the mental conditioning of like, no, we're just going this way and we're eating this food and we're walking this walk and we're abiding by, and it's like all of a sudden you can feel the repercussions of how conditioned you've been. You can feel how out of whack you might be. You can feel how much our souls have been, you know, confined in these roles, in these jobs, in these boxes, in these societal whatevers, expectations. And it's like that moment of feeling collectively is like this huge opportunity to like, okay, I can feel that this is wrong. I'm going to choose differently now. Maybe a lot of people, they didn't have their design. They didn't have that awareness yet. But when that feeling hits, and this is something I said in our before dawn, like when that feeling hits, my mind went blank. It just happened to me.
Yeah. But that's a normal thing. Like that's okay.
Yeah. When that feeling hits, you just have to feel it for yourself, I guess.
I was going to say though, like maybe going back to that show, there was so much about that show that was about when that feeling hits, it's bringing you into your true self, number one, and getting yourself out of the not self. Because I feel like we cycle through those not self moments a lot, and it's like about how do we kind of stop that cycle. It's not an instant stop. It's definitely why Ross says you got to go through your 7 years.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like when feelings are hitting, those are moments that you can truly get out of the not self. It's really actually through feeling that I feel like is the best spiritual ingredient, I guess you could say, of
it's the most efficient.
Putting you back to awareness and going, because if you're really upset because you can't pay your rent and you know human design, that feeling gets you right back to, am I doing my strategy and authority right now? Mm-hmm. Because if you really do the 7 years of human design every day and you really pay attention consciously and get out and are aware of the not self, it is when at whatever you're feeling, that has always been it's a positive trigger to me. It's like oh, you know what? Am I actually doing my manifest? Am I responding to something, or am I just running after something and not letting it come to me as an MG, right? Like, oh, you know what? I'm running after something here. Let me just shut the fuck up and just sit down and just wait for the thing to show up and not expect whatever it is either. I think a big part of it for especially generators is like, you don't start expecting it to look a certain way.
Right.
Just, it's going to show up however it's going to show up, and you'll know when to respond. You have to go off that feeling.
It's way better to not need it to look like any certain way, because that's just another way for all that programming to reassert itself. Like, you know, the thing that shows up and looks exactly the way you thought it would, because that was always the pursuit, that was always the prize. Mm-hmm. That might be the thing that your not self brought right before the thing that was actually nothing like what you thought it would look like, but was actually more in alignment for like the core fiber of your being that would gel with your system, that would work with your entire life, that would pivot your entire life into a better trajectory. So when that feeling hits, it is that golden opportunity to choose alignment. Right. And to like voice that, and to like not just keep going with the pattern that's been given to you. And I think that's,
you know what, this just reminded me of the way you put that, of like when it looks so perfect, it's the ultimate prize. That's so cross of planning to me, because it fits the plan, it fits the system. But it reminds me of like religions and how they've taken all religions and have taken like the essence of the deep spiritual message, and just let's paint this in this way that people will like it more and make them feel better. And so it like, I don't know why, I don't know, that's what instantly like it went to, is kind of like the idea of like how the church and they paint the angels in the 16th chapel, and the way that, because the cardinals in their red outfits are coming together to pick the Pope and God, it's so planned and it's the show and the dance that's very much like putting people at ease, that no longer really, like, people still get put at ease, but I don't think it lasts as long. And I think that they get actually this bottom that drops after. Like, I thought I would get a little bit more out of this. Like,
back to the gray reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think this is I feel like, I don't know if you already said this, but like, I feel like whenever we enter into a new transit, like a planet goes into a new sign, that's when it's the most powerful. Like,
totally.
And maybe when it leaves, second.
I would say that's second place, yeah.
But, you know, everyone that you know, everyone that you've ever known has been stuck in one thing, the cross of planning. Like, it's literally a design that's overlaid the entire planet. You know, so we have our design, they have their design, but in the background, massively, these giant locks and keys that are literally, they line the very perimeter of like the way that energy comes into form. Like, you're not escaping that. No, even if you're super deconditioned, you're still living within that. We're about to live through that changing.
Right.
We're about to live through, you know, the biggest freebie detox that's ever been given in our, you know, in any time we can recollect. And it's kind of the thing where, like, you know, in the Terminator movies, they have to time travel naked.
Yeah.
Because it burns off all their clothes or whatever. You kind of have to walk through this portal with nothing, you know, not your money, not your social class, not your title, not everything you've worked for your whole life. Unfortunately, yeah, that exists as an essence within you, and it is a part of you, what you've cultivated. But as a species, in order to get the point of why all of this even exists, why are we here? What is it all? What's all happening here? We kind of have to drop all the toys at the gateway and walk through into the temple and be initiated into this new higher level of consciousness. And when you go up and you see more, you know, it takes a moment to integrate that. Yeah. You understand things you didn't understand before. You see the source of things that before were a mystery to you. You see why things are not working. You see the brokenness in things. You see so much more about life. And sometimes it's overwhelming. And it's like, we're probably going to have a lot of collective grief and fear and uncertainty. But that's not the point. The whole point of this is not, now it goes to shit and we have nothing. That's not what the universe wants. It's to take us to the next highest level. And in order to do that, these training wheels, like a lot of this stuff has just been fluff. Right. Non-essential fluff. And so that's the real opportunity here. And that's how I would encourage people to look at this. It's not about resisting. It's not necessarily even about preparing. You can, I've always said that, but if it feels right for you, it's about surrendering, really. Right.
Or like, because if it's an emotional being, right, in the solar plexus, it's about, you have to go through the feeling for days and see if it's still the same feeling before you respond or before you take the invitation, right? Or whatever, right? Like that you have to go through the waves, because that's what's going to happen, is that people are going to have extreme fear, and that's a wave. And it's like, well, let's see if there's fear in a couple days still. Right. And that's the surrender of like, let these waves hit and let's see if it's still the same, because it's very difficult in emotional world, in solar plexus world, if you are responding to it immediately. You're feeling.
Yeah. Because if you're responding immediately, you're basically resisting.
Yeah.
the complete wave. You're like taking one little slice of that wave and like trying to do something with it.
Oh,
when
yeah.
it really just wants to carry you to a destination, which is clarity.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit like the Wizard of Oz, like to me, in my opinion. Oh my gosh, I'm not in Kansas anymore, and now I got to go on this. All the emotions that Dorothy has to go through. But you have to find that like steadiness, like, oh, okay, because like it's very emotional being. It's like, oh my gosh, and then there's a dead witch, but there's a nice witch, and then all these little people, and then I meet some friends, and then there's some crazy things, and then now we're singing and dancing, and then oh my God, it's terrifying. It's kind of like, whoa, like that is a lot of emotions and ups and downs and da-da-da. But at the end of the day, it's also a dream, and she does come back and they're all sitting around her in her bed when she wakes up, which is really weird, but they're all like, 1930s, like on the farm now, but it's all the characters in the movie. And I think that's like the part of like allowing this. I already feel like it's begun its way because we've had so many planets transiting through the gates that really define that solar plexus. So like, even though it's 2027, everything does come in, like, it just doesn't like, here it is. Like there's the progression into new energy and the progression out that's happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And so there's been so much in this place that if you just respond emotionally right away off the emotion, boy, oh boy, have you been humbled off your ass in this last 5 years. I would especially say even more so the last 3 years, because that's really where we started seeing like a lot of the Pisces stuff, a lot of the stuff going into these gates, like the Aquarius stuff, and even some of the, it's like, that's where it's like that surrender is like, it is a full surrender, but it's more of like a surrender until you are aware of, the feelings changed and I didn't do anything different. So maybe it's not so much to be afraid of, or maybe I'm not that happy anymore. Maybe that was because I immediately just wanted happiness in this moment. Maybe it's not
Or
that
maybe
happy.
I don't really hate myself.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And that was just me processing all of that programmed conditioning that was living in me epigenetically, but was never really mine. And I just needed to let the emotion complete for it to empty out of my system. I'm seeing a lot of that. And it's really good. It's really good. And it's like when we're, in a ceremony, like with plant medicine, there can be 12 people in that room and the person next to you is like literally screaming their head off and crying, and they're so scared and they're so in their experience. And you have to be able to sit there and witness that and not need to get involved and not need to tell them otherwise, and to trust that they're going to reach their completion point in their own timing, and not make it your job to make someone feel better, because that's not the point anymore. Like just feeling better is what keeps us trapped in these loops, these programmed loops that cut us off at, like a 20% of our potential. It's the fluff. It's the comfort of just feeling better. It's about opening up to more feeling actually. And, it's just crazy how much more efficient emotion is at the stuff that the mind has been trying to do. It's also interesting. That reminds me of how Ra has always said, like, the raves are going to be way better at resource generation than we were. Even though that we made that our life's purpose in the cross of planning and like the thing by which we lived and died and judged ourselves. And these new beings are going to come in without a strategic bone in their body, but because they have access to all consciousness, they're just going to know how to put it together because it's obvious in that state of mind.
Well, and I think the solar plexus offers a container of a place to be held in. Like, I have an emotional wife and emotional daughter. Fine, right? So like, I have learned so much because it makes me look at my own self and go, they're not tripping, but when they're tripping, I'm not tripping. You know what I mean? So it's like interesting to see the parallels of who trips on what.
Yeah.
Like they actually trip on just like pretty basic stuff. And I know it's not big stuff where it makes me go, maybe I'm tripping about something so big that ain't that big a deal. Right. But on little stuff, I don't trip, But it's like, oh, wait, maybe maybe they're a better gauge of when shit's really going bad.
Right.
Right. So like, it's kind of like making me realize, man, I really don't have as much to trip on here, because they're a great gauge for me. I'm like, well, they ain't tripping.
That's a very good point.
I'm like, this makes me go, okay, I guess I'm tripping. It's made me as a non-emotional being to be like, especially raising a daughter, having a wife who you have to be there to support through pregnancy, through after pregnancy, as being parents and as a wife and as your best friend, and all these different levels. And I've learned how to hold that container space. Because with emotional beings, they're going to let out their emotion. They're going to feel it. And being single for a lot of my life and all that, it was like, I don't have anything on my left side. So I'm just like, hey, boom, boom, boom. Like, I just like kind of am the person that's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're having a bad day. Gotta go. Gotta keep going. But it's totally changed my life, because I've learned more about myself and about maybe looking at things differently. And also, I've seen this container that they offer me. I have never felt more support and just like love without it needing to even be said. That it's just always there. And I've never felt that in my life before. It's like always, well, how do I people please more? Or how do I prove to you what I'm doing? Or how do I say the best thing? Or how do I show my worth in a different way? Or right? It's always all these things. There literally is nothing that structure system I have to do to make them unconditionally already be holding space all the time for me.
Right.
Right. So that's what I've learned through, because I don't have a solar plexus defined, and mine's not even a gate, right? It's completely
open. Yeah.
So I've learned, wow, like to have two emotional generators as my girls in my life. And I don't know what my son will be, but you never know. But I think, he's going to be a generator as well. So
you looked, or you just,
I've like kind of looked around the dates that he's born. So it's like, yeah, you never know though. But I think it's just like a beautiful thing to like remind people that right now we live in a world without that emotional container.
For the most part.
For the most part. Yeah.
I think that's what we think we're going to get, like you were saying, by doing all these things and achieving and accumulating and going to the next thing and buying the next thing and,
right.
Like being more visible, being more approved of, being more liked. That's what we're all seeking in doing all that. That's that false promise of the cross of planning, is like, if you're the one that brings the right thing, gate 40, you'll receive the love and affection of the solar plexus, gate 37. That's the main channel of this time. And it's like, you're not going to get that from society. You're going to get that from the human beings in your life that you truly connect to and share presence with. And in case anybody was confused about that, that's the real point. Like from what you said and just the frequency that you just shared when you spoke about that, and how much more grounded and loving and wholesome that is.
Right.
Like that's what human beings want and need. We've put all these different middlemen in front of us and that core love.
Right.
And we're still working out that a lot of these middlemen will never lead us there. But we can make that jump sooner. And I mean, the other part is, it's not a jump, it's a journey. Like you have to be yourself to get the right love for you. If you're not yourself, the right love can't find you. The right recognition can't find you if you're a projector. The right community can't find you if you're a reflector. But life wants to help you do that. But yet we have all these external programmed bullies that say, no, you have to do it this way. And if you don't do it this way, you're going to be screwed.
Right.
And you'll never find it, and you'll never have a chance. And here are all the reasons and examples of people who have not done that, and look where they are, And it's like,
yeah.
So I think
it creates like why we see depression at the highest rates ever. We see jealousy. We see, you see stories all the time. Like there was just some dad who killed his 3 daughters like last week, and I was just like, I can't. Right, like you see these horrible stories, and you go, why are people acting like this? It's that system, it's that structure. If you're not able to work the job and you don't find the job fast enough and you don't prove your worth in a different way and you don't have this and you don't have that and you don't fit into it right, and then especially if you're not acting right in kind of a societal, whether that filters through like the lens of how men see women and women see men, or all these kind of like, there's so many dynamics in it that you constantly have to be like, there is no, oh yeah, I'm the perfect person that perfectly goes through the system. Like, actually, I would think you're insane if you said that. Any person, I'd be like, you're a fucking, you're not a human being, because there is no way to do that. And it would constantly, it's stressful, and it causes, I think, people to go into those 40, 37 and go, I guess I'm really not worthy of my own emotional self and to provide emotional support for myself, and I'm not worthy of the system. And they create maybe jealousy, like, look at that person is, because we're also in a society where you've seen more cheating, you've seen more people mad at each other. We just saw, it was just like, just this weekend too, there was like 2 YouTube guys who were at each other's throats just on YouTube videos, and they finally met in Vegas, and the guy shot the fucking YouTuber and his wife and killed him. I'm like, whoa. I know. I'm like, what is what, I'm like, in my mind I was like, what is like this? And it's all off the system, because it's like the guy's like promoting on his YouTube as though he's gonna go there, like, I'm gonna cap the fool, you know. It's like, I gotta get my recognition, I gotta get the people to support me and my approval, that I'm a hard motherfucker and that I'm fucking gonna go after this guy. And it's so sad to see the video of the guy and his wife who died, because like, it's like them at dinner right before they go on the strip, and they're just like, to me, I could see their send off without them even realizing it, just like having a good time, being really positive to their audience, like, thank you for supporting our channel, and like, you know, we just like love you all, and like, you know, just, but it's like this really eerie, like, this is their goodbye without them knowing it. Wow. And it's just one of those moments where you realize, yeah, this system thing is bigger than people want to give it credit for. I think a lot of people that are in denial about it, and there's a lot of astrologers that are in denial about it, because they can't kind of see this widening of where astrology is going. I mean, for the fact that they've just found the next planet, the last one in our solar system in the last couple of weeks, and it's on a 25,000 year cycle, which I'm like, well, that makes so much sense.
We didn't know that yet. I knew about that.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point, though. Is like,
yeah,
it's official now. Just in the last couple of weeks, just came out. They found the planet, and it's at the end of the solar system, right? But it's in our solar system. It revolves around our sun.
Everybody go check my threads. I predicted earlier this year that it was going to happen, and
good. I know I did too. I think you and I are always in that same vibe, though.
From a frequency level, though, not because we need to like
yeah, exactly,
read something.
Correct. Yeah. It's a frequency. Yeah. Like, because like I want to show this to people, because I asked you about this, and you had shown this when we did our show back in the day, and so this is from Jovian, the Jovian archives, and this is how Ra comes up with his global cycles and the global consciousness program. Right. And so where we're at now, for people that might be listening to us, I mean, like, I have no idea what they're saying, is right here in 1615 through 2026, we are in the cross of planning. And so to the left are the design gates. So there's that 3740 you were talking about. And that's on the design side. And then the body side is the 6162 over here.
Well, technically design is body, but...
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Personality.
That's right.
So, yeah.
And so we move into this cross of sleeping phoenix. And I think it's interesting because, like, is the date just literally like January 1st, 2027?
No, it's February 18th.
Okay.
2027. And I think that's like to the specific changing of the locks and keys, like what we're viewing here, that's the date of that, right?
Got you.
Because there is no, that's not human design New Year.
That makes sense.
It's not calendar New Year, but it would be like, you know, because these cycles aren't really, they're not necessarily actually written in years. We just look at them in years, but their actual unit of measure is like, when does the gate match up? You know what I'm saying?
Got you. Because that makes sense. Because like my sun and my body is a 56, right? Because I'm a Leo, 0 Leo, right? So that makes sense. So it's the 55th gate. Is that the start? Like the first? Is that the date based off that first gate that's shown there, the 55?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because I'm February 21st and I'm 55. So
Right.
just right before then.
Right. So like that's
55 line 1.
Yeah. So like to show it to people, it's like I gotta really get in here. There we go. So that 2027 above my head, that it starts at 55, and so that means in 16:8 or 15 it started at the 37th gate. So at the sun when it was there. So we can show your what you're doing too here.
Nice.
You know?
That was such a seamless. So from what we were just looking at, we saw that in that table there was a series of years, like a 400-year cycle. Then we saw 4 gates that are going to make up the locks.
Right.
And then on the other side, we saw 4 gates that are going to make up the keys. So I wanted to visualize this for everyone because the locks are here on the outside of the wheel. These, these 8 different gates. And these are the gates of love and direction. And these are all gates of the G center. And if you can see this wheel, what are you kind of seeing? You're kind of seeing a stargate. What is a stargate? It's a portal through which dimensional consciousness comes through. It's like it's dialed to a certain frequency, like just like a radio receiver, AM 560. It's going to pull that frequency. You're going to render that frequency in a auditory way. A stargate takes your whole reality existence and tunes it to a specific frequency, and it takes you there. That's why we would walk through a stargate to go to another dimension. It's
right.
tuned to that. So what is our reality tuned to for a specific 400-year cycle is shown by the locks and the keys. It's going to give us those overarching themes and energies that guide the entire illusion, the entire dream, the entire Maya, the matrix, as we call it, and all of the different rules that are, the foundational principles for that time frame. So we give them these little monikers because it gives us more context of like, well, what does gate 10 mean to me?
Right.
It's giving us the nature of the time. Like, what is the behavioral model, the way that we move, the way that we exchange, the way that we connect. And the key is going to tell us the answer to that question. So when we look at whatever of the 8 keys and locks are for any of these 400-year cycles, we see exactly what's going to go down. What are people going to be focusing on? Who are they going to be looking up to? The example. What is going to determine the nature of the body's life? That's the temple. It's like,
right. So that 3740 is the nodes then, or is that like, because I noticed those are the first 2, so they go off the way and the temple, right? So like it's the opposition point. Like it's like
the way is. So gate 25 is basically unconditional love. It's like the most fundamental gate of love. So it's like love in its most like tiniest form. So like if we could have a mountain and a rock.
I get it. I'll just switch on mine really quick.
Okay.
So like that's why these bigger periods that we're in, all these sub periods starts, what you're showing is what the whole lock is.
The whole structure.
I get it now. So like that's the lock. It started at 33 BC and it to me, it's like, yeah, that's a big time period like that you look at, but it's the lock. And then we're in these keys. And then the next lock, of course, coming in over 1,000 years from now. But what's crazy is we're at the midpoint, the middle, right, of it. And now that we're moving to the other side of the middle and moving into that cross of sleeping
So
Phoenix.
we're moving
So now
away-
that 55 gate goes to where the lock is at 25s. That makes sense. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's
All right.
that
There we go.
becomes the key to the way. So
Got you.
now we're moving into the way being not the 37, not the family, not affection, not, communal love, but rather individual spirit. Like
Right.
gate 55 is, it's a gate of unity. When it's in an individual form, it's a gate that says, what puts me in touch with that unified field? What puts me in touch with melding with everything? Like what makes me feel so alive that I'm one with all? And that's one of those gates of Pisces that can be like, well, for that person, it's heroin that makes them feel like one with all. And that's where where Neptune gets its like more dreary, delusional side, is because it can be like this simulation of oneness. It's like a fake oneness. True oneness comes with actual connection to all things. And that's what gate 55 actually provides when it fully activates in 2027. So people born after 2027 that are carrying the 55 are going to be some of the first people that have access to that unity consciousness. That's what we call a rave, because they're not going to be interested in me, I, mine. They're going to only be interested in how can I come together with more people with my same energy and amplify that to become, a conscious collective field. It's not a conscious individual. It's literally multiple consciousnesses having one awareness that is shared. So if you've heard of the telepathy tapes, there are currently living examples of people who can share consciousness in a more limited way, like with their their primary caretaker or their sibling or, a specific friend. And there are some, group dynamics that are going on as well. But this will be like the normal thing when the key shifts to 55 for the way. This will be the way. Like, what is the most fundamental particle of consciousness looking to do in this time? You look at the way. The plan has to do with the direction. So in the cross of planning, the key for the plan was growth, gate 42. It was about make more. It's in the sacral. So it's about get up and do it again, get up and do it again. That was the direction. That was what was fueling resource development and globalization and industrialization. When we move it to 2027, to the new cross of sleeping phoenix, which will be the awake phoenix, what does 42 become?
42 that we've been in the cross of planning will become a 51.
51. So the plan is no longer develop and build more resources. It's be shocked and initiated. It's have the willpower to stay true to the awareness that you have. It's like gate 51 is somebody who can jump into the void with no guarantee of what's on the other side and move into a whole new state.
Yeah.
That's the willpower. It's in the ego center. It's the willpower to do that, to push past all the norms and all the ways that people say things should be done and step into a new possibility. So
I have a crazy question because I didn't even notice this. When you look at how the left side here is these crosses, and they actually, I was looking at that 42 like you just asked me to, right? And it moving to the 51. And then they have the cross of Maya that's on the other side.
Right.
I didn't even actually notice these other ones. So like, and then the cross of Maya, it's flipped if you go to the time prior, right? Which was in the 3500 or 4500, or sorry, here, that's cross of Maya, but cross of planning, it was 4977 through 4566 BC. So it's almost like that's the body design. Like there's a, like I don't know, that I'm kind of mind blown by this now, because it's like, is there something to say about that 42nd gate moving to 51 that is that a like a design gate, or is that a body gate? Like it's very interesting. You see how you see that on the right side, that it connects with the numbers on the key to the right, those four, it's got cross of Maya on it, and then cross of plantings to the left. It's very. I'm like, this is on Jovian Archives. I'm like, wow, this is like. Maybe that's like the shadow or something, because that's where you were in the last time. Like back in 1681 through 1270 was cross of Maya, and then it went to cross of penetration. So there's some interesting connection to the cross of penetration to the cross of the sleeping phoenix, and how the cross of planting has a deep connection with the cross of Maya.
Totally.
What's the cross of penetration?
It's about seeing past the surface of anything. It could be
Okay. Maybe that's like the, I don't know. Maybe that's the unconscious part of the cross, kind of how you think of your design, and you think of, right? Like
your unconscious side.
Your unconscious side.
Yeah. It's like, it's the story within the story. It's like if the,
like it's the profile, unconscious profile.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's crazy. That actually
it's
makes this way deeper to me now. And I already
on
was
the
deep
left
in it.
side, it's like, here's what it is.
Right.
And on the right is, how do you do it? So we're living in the cross of we're going into the cross of sleeping phoenix. That's what it is.
That's crazy.
The way. And then you move onto the right side, and it's showing us, okay, what do you do in the cross of the sleeping phoenix? You penetrate to the core of the concept, to the core of yourself, to the core of like, what is the actual truth of what was veiling? What are we penetrating? Like, is it the veil? Is it societal systems? Is it a system of knowledge? You name it. It could be anything.
What is there a connection to the colors with these crosses?
Like on this graph?
No, like, for example, Ra always says, I'll bring it back to us. Like Ra always talked about how, like, for me, example of 5-1, like, you're not going to be needed as much. Not everybody's going to be looking for you to figure it out and, be the heretic and fucking say what you need to say, like, because that color is not going to be so needed, right?
Oh, like color tone base?
Like, because, like, the number colors, right? Like,
Well, yeah, colors, tones, and bases are kind of like markers of what model of the human being did you get? Because
I see.
1, 2, and 3, or 1 and 2, basically colors 1 and 2 are based in our splenic system. So they're old, ancient survival, figure it out, survive, kill or be killed. Like they're very splenic. And if you know splenic authority, it's making the decision in the heat of the moment and being able to survive no matter what. It's just like this knee-jerk reaction that's very instinctual. So those two, are becoming more obsolete, right? They just are. They're definitely powerful if you have color 1 and 2. I'm not saying you're obsolete. You were given that design for a reason. But as we, as a species, evolve and change, it's actually colors 5 and 6 that are going to be more prevalent, because those are solar plexus binary colors. They come from the field of touch and the field of light. So, our ability to like
That's what I am. I'm touch and I'm indirect light.
Right. So, and you have a right facing body variable, right? Pretty sure you do.
I don't know. I'm a left angle cross, but I don't know if like. Oh yeah, I'm a right fit. Yes, on the top parts. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
I get it. I get it, because that's where you get the colors and all that stuff is up there.
Right. And so that means like this edition.
That makes so much more sense now. I'm like tripping my mind, and you're tripping me out right now, like hardcore.
So like even in terms of like who's having babies and who's not, like probably people with more of the rightness on the body side, because they're passing down rave genetic potentials.
Right.
Because raves are all parts right, and they come from right parents. So
that makes more sense
people
to me.
in general with the left facing variables, like if we're looking at the world,
and that's more intellect, right? And
it's more focus.
Yeah.
You could say intellect, but it's more like focus, strategic, like I'm going to get it. I'm going to get the prize. Like I just got to figure out the plan and I'm going to get it. But it's myopic. It misses all of this stuff around it in order to focus on what it's
I
getting.
see, yeah.
So we're moving away from, because that was, at one point, a viable survival mechanism for developing this civilization or whatever. And as we move towards rightness, what is rightness? It's receptivity. It's omnidirectional. It's open to everything. It doesn't have just one preference. It'll take in the wholesale of information, and later it'll be able to produce what's needed for any situation because it's taken everything in. So in situation A, where it's wet and we need to have grippy, I don't know, so it's going to get grippy.
Right.
In the situation over here where it's dry, it's going to pull out extra moisture that it was hiding somewhere. Like it's got this depth that allows it to be more adaptable. Is it super clear on how it's going to dominate the world? No, because it doesn't need to be. It doesn't care like the left does. And we could even see that as like a movement from like a more reptilian brain or even a more reptilian consciousness, societally and systemically, to one that's more just presence based.
That makes a lot more sense.
And, if you're super focused on one thing, how can you be open to unity consciousness? You can't. It's not going to work.
Right.
So we have to go through this, not just, physiological shift too, in a brain system and which.
I mean, that describes, like, I know you have my chart, but it makes more sense of like why the system considers me ADHD.
Right.
But
and why you had to
actually,
kind of
for me
find
to
your
focus on one thing is pretty fucking hard. Because I'm more, ooh, look at all this. Oh, yeah, let's figure that out in the moment. I don't need to overthink it.
And, you had to kind of innovate your own process,
right,
to work within this cross of planning to get the results.
Oh yeah, I had to get out of the system early on.
Yeah, because it would have dumbed you down so
know.
much and reduced that creative impulse of the MG.
I know. I've like tapped into that timeline if I didn't, and I'm a insurance salesman, and it's really sad.
It's sad.
Wearing a collared shirt like this, but like, for that company.
Right.
And right now just really like unhappy in my life. And
yeah,
it's really sad.
Well,
I mean, I'm not in that one, but I am in that one at the same time. But like, that's blowing my mind because that whole idea of the unconscious part of the cross, which is actually to integrate like that idea of the sleeping phoenix and penetration, or how that cross of Maya with the cross of planning, how they're so relatable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like,
they like really
complete
fit.
each other.
Yeah, they do complete each other.
It's like
crazy,
that
dude.
second cross is like your tools. It almost feels like your tools.
That's
of
crazy.
That particular journey.
Because my daughter's a 6'2", so like her raw just like is like super warnings when they're young 6'2" because of penetration. I'm like, that maybe that's something about that 6'2" understanding to be the role model, but the hermit. It added, that is a very weird profile, but like there is something about her really, like she just knows how to go into it. She's not afraid of figuring out what's this, what's that, and just okay. Like it's wild to watch because it's like it's like she might not be a rave, but she's like probably gonna be able to know how to like be a liaison.
Right.
That's how I'm looking at my kids. Like they're the liaisons to the raves. Like they'll be nice translators.
Right. Exactly. Translator. It's kind of like the firmware that communicates between two different systems, right?
Like her best friend that she's known since she was an infant, they both turn like and just like get dizzy together and like have their whole own relationship before they were talking. And they know how to do things that you and I didn't figure out till we were 10 years old.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So like the whole rave thing, I think was the hardest part for me to understand a long time ago. But now having kids and seeing that, and I think a lot of people can say that when you meet kids now, I mean, I feel like we were given the weirdest life. Like at 5 years old, I'm like, ooh, cardboard paper and like glue stick was big. My daughter's already drawing and knowing how to do it and pull this out and has her babies and moves them here and is doing this and already knows how to turn on the TV and find the thing and taught my mom how to find a YouTube video quicker. Like I'm like, you got it. It's another level.
Yeah, they have access to everything because they're no longer following this like linear process of thinking, of learning, of development. And they're also being able to like piggyback off what's already in the field. So like
right,
the people around them and what they know how to do. And, you know, it's not like they're just this fresh new person anymore. It's like actually they have more continuity to the consciousness that brought them into the world, and they can borrow from that because they're so receptive by nature.
And so with the projectors being the ones that are the come up of this time, and there's not there's not a lot of them, right? There's 22% of the planet are projectors.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a lot, but you know, it's still it's a smaller number. It is a lot of that because because we're going to be out of this cross of planning, and that's very kind of, it makes sense that generators kind of get locked into the, you know, cycle of creating the system and staying in the system, and that we're going to have to actually listen to what the projector's visions and guidance is. And is it all dependent on how much they've been studying and researching and waiting for the right invitation?
Yeah, I mean, the projectors are the blueprint holders. So,
okay, that's a good way to put it.
I mean, the generators have the energy and the manigens to be structured. So they have got this raw resource of life force energy that they're carrying in their bodies, but it's not self-aware. It's intelligent, but it's not aware. There's a difference. So it's here, and it knows what it's here for when it comes in contact with the right thing. Other than that experience, that energy is just like, oh, I don't know. Until it locks signature frequency with the right thing, that generator is in a state of mystery as to who they are and why they're here.
I just got some crazy download. So you know how Ra always described projectors as like, it's only about the one person that they find, and you can feel a projector when they're looking at you because they're not looking at anybody else but you. You can feel it. It's not about their eyes and the physical. It's about they just throw their hook in and right. Like you can feel that. So are we going to be living in a world where it's just like, oh shit, this is pulling on me? I guess do we need this guidance? Like I recognize I need your guidance. Do you want to help guide us?
I think so. I think it's like if we look at projectors as these energetically like a flower, you know, like if you look at a flower through an electromagnetic lens, you're going to see that it's got way more color and frequency coming off of it than meets the eye.
It's like the Beauty and the Beast rose in the glass case.
But even more like neon and like it's got all these essences going around it, and that's a signature. It's a code. It's a password, right? And a generator has this password locked reservoir of energy.
Right.
And because that's what, you know, the energy of the planet and the program is going to want, we're going to have more generators being like responding to the generator that then has the blueprints or the recognition or the skills or whatever that they need to be kind of programmed with. It's not to say that generators need to be programmed by somebody else to function. It's just that in this time where there's so much lack of structure in this median phase between planning and sleeping phoenix, the projectors are going to be like, you know, their energy is going to be really big to see like, hey, you have the right energy for this. Okay, come here. Plug that in. Okay, go do that. Because that's the way the energy is going to get structured in the future. It's not so much coming from the background program. It's coming more from the individuals that have downloaded knowledge bases, methodologies, frameworks. So it's like, if we did go into a dark age, who's teaching the next generation electrical engineering,
Right.
who's teaching animal husbandry, whatever. It's like projectors become these reservoirs for some kind of order and structure that they are then distributing to the people with the energy, so they
That's
can
not
build.
the same as the structure we're in.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not going to be like being scanned all the time by projectors or whatever, but I think
Yeah, it is more of a fun joke, but
I think it's like their purpose is going to be more easily understood. It's like, oh,
that makes, because I was going to say there's probably a fair exchange that, let's use the example of a dark, where we're not living with the old system of electricity, and that you have the lights on and everybody's humming and the mail's coming, right? It's like, it makes sense that a projector is going to be able in that exchange to be recognized and guide and give their visions and give all of what they've researched. They're non-energy being, but they're going to need energy beings also to keep their flower going.
right. Exactly.
Right? Like, so there's like an exchange there of like, well, what am I supposed to do now as a manifesting generator? Well, actually there's so much you can't see.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. In exchange, thank you. I'll make this and just keep guiding me. And by you being in that field, it's providing the energy for you to be able to continue the vision and keep and provide all those things.
There's so much beauty in that, because it's like in the cross of planning, you kind of felt like you had to be everything or you were unworthy, right? Oh, you don't know how to do that? Wow. And then you're like scared to say what you don't know and you never learn. And whereas in the cross of the sleeping phoenix, it's like, wow, thank you for knowing how to do that. I'll get right on that. I have the energy for it. Let's build, and the more that we lean into that way of cooperating, we're already doing it.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like, like triggers are going to, I think, kind of peak and then go down. It'll be like the biggest volatile like chart you've ever seen, like extreme triggers at the beginning. And then everybody learns that ain't going to help anymore. Right. And going all the way down to nothing.
Goes out of style.
It goes out of style because it's like, oh, you know what? Yeah. What do you got? Oh, thank you for that knowledge. All right. Boom. Like instead of like, oh my gosh, like, what do you mean? I'll figure it out on my own. Like, okay, right. Like that makes a lot more sense too. And I guess then there's that part where, cause like manifestors have become, joining the reflectors is the rarity ones, right? Like, I mean, reflectors being the most rare, but that I think Rod said that's where manifestors are going to be more showing back up as babies and so forth in this time period, right?
A little bit of a spike of manifestors, I think now, actually, like as we leave, we're there. As we leave the cross of planning, it's so funny that it's like, oh no, it's in the future. It's like, nope.
I know, yeah.
But there's a reason for that, because we're going to need more of that impulse, that spark, right? It's almost like if that energy of, oh, we get the most from a transit or from a change in a cycle right at the beginning, that's like the human embodiment of that.
Right.
With that newness comes a bunch of people who are here to bring something new. And like Ross said, like they're going to be angry. They're going to be pissed that there's so much on their shoulders, having to push the generation of this new whole grid, this whole new frequency. That's what he said, at least. He figured that they were going to be really pissed that they didn't get to have the leisurely experience of the kind that the manifestors the last 50 to 100 years have had, where they have no longer been the world dominators, but they haven't been pushing the new era as much really either. They've just been in their kind of retirement zone. And then
it's a great description.
Yeah, and then we're moving into this space where like, if we really tap into what a manifestor was at their prime, like they were driving people to lift that block and build that castle. Like they were driving humanity for so long. We don't recognize them.
Right.
Because
you're good. It's just, they take the trash out and stuff.
We don't recognize them as that now, except a lot of times when I give manifestor readings, I'm like, most people have an epigenetic fear of manifestor auras because they killed so many people in the past. Like,
Right.
they were the Genghis Khans, they were the great conquerors, and our bloodline still remember that kind of stuff, even if consciously it just looks like a nice person sitting across from you.
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up because right when Dylan got in here, I had pulled up I was like, let me pull up some refresh stuff of 2027 from what Ross said, and I found that, and then I looked at the dates, and for the last year and a half, this as an astrologer, I've been preparing people for the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries, which is the 25th gate, and what's wild is the last time Saturn-Neptune happened at 0 Aries was in 4300 BC.
There we go.
And that's in the last sleeping phoenix.
The last time
the cross changed over. And what's wild is in history, it's called prehistory. That the history is about trying to source the DNA of humans and where they came on the earth at different places. And it's wild since it's not maybe talked about enough, but in human design about, whether it's gene keys or all that, but this connection to the physical body and the spiritual body and that understanding of genes, because it's really about the DNA to understand the genes of where the ancestors of humanity came on the planet and where they originated from and all that. So it's really wild that there's this very difficult to see what actually was going on then. There's not a lot of history. There's not much they could find. And we're moving into that now, which definitely means a lot is coming down in order to be that same moment where we're another 6,500 years from now, people are going to be looking at what were they doing at that moment where we're coming into, how did that go down?
Fuzzy.
It's fuzzy.
So yeah, we're stepping into a moment where there will not be these megalithic traces of what we were up to, because it's not the height of civilization. It is the height of a new genetic dispersion, though. Talking now, talking about that previous Sleeping Phoenix era was it was these original haplogroups of tribes starting to differentiate and be nomadic and go to environments that suited them and their genetics better, and this kind of differentiation of genes. Now that's what's happening the
genetic pool, as I think he used to say, right?
Yeah, it's going to be the raves, diversifying things, bringing in a whole other way of doing everything. And also, I'm sure at that time there was a lot of the older, old, the old groups, old tribes were probably gone after that. Those weren't known in the same way that they had always been known up to that point, and they became something else. And that's what led to this. So it's interesting how the Sleeping Phoenix always does result in some kind of dissolution, it feels like, of the previous order.
Right. And it's really weird because in the way that they did the gene sequencing, it's very much like you said, it's not like these are people from this country or these are people from this race. It literally is codes.
Right.
This is gene A, B, C, X to D. And then because we see this gene mixed with this one, these people were the ones that connected with more of the people than other ones. So it's kind of the nomadic tribes and this kind of who does kind of reach out more and who didn't.
Right. Which
so that means
went with which projector and followed which plan, and who ended up surviving and who didn't, and then those genes became dominant.
Right.
And so it also feels like it's kind of a genetic crossroads, because all the I was thinking about this recently, through the many eras of life. I'm sure there were so many people that we've never seen like what they look like. We think we have all this diversity, right? And we do.
Right.
But there are people that have existed that we have never even seen because they were all killed off because they were probably so different or so obvious or so peaceful. You know, what we have left now is just kind of like the middle of the barrel.
It kind of reminds me of Tartaria and like, you know, and or the great giant people, or even, you know, I know Craig was obsessed with Bigfoot, you know, and still probably is. But it's like, you know, and that makes sense more. Like, you know, there's all these different kind of genes. I just want to put this up because it's from Jovian Archive in this part where it's like the importance of Pluto to global changes, but Neptune. And so he had said Neptune's role in the program is deeply veiled, working below the surface of the gate at the genetic level. While at the surface, this planet puts forth an illusion, a glamour that is often misinterpreted by the mind and the collective unconscious and filled with misinformation and misdirection, which is so now and what we've been through. And then once we cut through the illusion, which is so Saturn, Neptune at 025th gate,
and that's
to find true love, that's actually what the Sleeping Phoenix is bringing up. I think the positive that people are not seeing is we have not felt true love yet because we're in the lock that is the lock of the cross of the vessel of love.
Exactly.
That we've not felt that in our lives.
Well,
not even close.
Well, we've only felt it through the communal family,
Right.
37th gate. And sorry, you're screwed if that's not what you got, right? It's like
Right.
if you didn't have that kind of experience of the loving family, and you know how few people have, but like it's not going to be confined to that anymore. It's not going to be confined to just that one avenue of what, because we unconsciously define love by the qualities of the 37th gate. We don't even know what love really is because we've only been able to see it through one lens. So what you're saying is like we're going to break out of, we're going to dissolve that limitation,
right?
Get 60 on what we call what is what we call love. And I think love is actually, you know, what the society we live in has been missing as that central ingredient.
Yeah, because it does feel very much like that interpretation of love. That's the 37th gate is weakness, equality, tenderness. So it's like it's been seen as a weak place. Like, oh, you just fell in love at 18 with your high school sweetheart and you missed out on your career. You missed out on being the big shot because you fell for the weak
or you
part, right?
You know, you're just a mother. You know, you're not a corporate giant. You're just at home loving and nurturing and protecting the family unit. You
right.
What do you know? But actually, that's the center point of civilization.
Yeah, actually, the 37th gate has a lot of love in there, the tenderness part and the equality. But that's been something that we fight for, let's say in America, for equality. But really, you can look at it in every different area. There's moments when there's equality in this area, but maybe not in this, whether it's race, whether it's job, whether it's...
And I think it's also...
Right, like it's always switching around too.
It's also pointing to the 40 that's on the other end of that channel, which gate 40 says...
Oh yeah, I'll put it up.
You've got to earn it.
Right.
If you haven't brought home the bacon, you don't get any love. If you're not the most...
Oh, and it's exhaustion too, that the love with exhaustion, the shadow of that.
Weakness and exhaustion.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. That's like, it's like...
I'll do anything for love.
Right.
I'll get that college degree. I'll get that BBL. Like, you know, like...
Right.
That's the mark of our time.
Right, exactly.
People doing anything to feel equally, like equality, equally loved and worthy. And
oh, that's so crazy. Like the tenderness, the sacrificial lamb. I'll sacrifice for a little bit of tenderness, everything.
Right.
And it's almost like Mary 16th Chapel.
And that wasn't
the hands that just don't touch.
Right. Like,
yeah.
Not today.
Not today. Yeah.
Try again. Work harder.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm busy. I have to make sure I get my sleep, and I do that, and I do this, and you know, it creates that very avoidant personality, right? Like,
Right, because there's a higher master that's still trying to be pleased, and that is
Right.
the not self conglomerate entity of the cross of planning, which is like you're never good enough.
right.
like-
Nobody can be.
Yeah.
Because who's the one that's in control of the whole? Nobody can be in control of the whole cross of planning.
Right.
So it's like the illusion that Neptunian fog, which if you think about, it's a 165-year cycle. So in that like 400-year cycle, you're seeing it happen like many layers. And it's, as he says, it's like it's underneath the surface of the gene, but it's programming the gene. So it's programmed so many levels, and it's ironic, but not ironic, because he talks about global cycles so much. And he obviously saw that Saturn-Neptune conjunction in 2026 being the moment where Saturn passes Neptune and cuts it off at the 0 degree spot at the 25th gate, which is the lock, first key, or first, gate. And then goes, the last time was the last time, all the way back.
It's almost like
That's fucking beyond
it's almost
mind-blowing.
like Saturn and Neptune, almost like if our genetics were like this fabric that we're woven from for
Right.
generations. And when Saturn and Neptune come together, it's like a cutting of the fabric of the cloth
Right.
and starting the new garment, starting the new genetic cycle.
Right. I think like if, I know a lot of people are concerned with solar flares, pole shift, everything. And that feels part of the planning too, right? In my way of like the fear about it, like, cause it goes against the plan of stability, like this idea of like another solar flare. Oh my gosh. Now the poles are shifting. It's kind of like, what if the veil of what you're afraid of here, that you've been programmed that it needs to always be so safe and secure, but actually there's not a lot of love involved and you're sacrificing, and now you're feeling like the earth's going to sacrifice you, the sun is going to sacrifice you, because that can be turned the other way too. It's like, I'm being sacrificed.
Right.
But it's like, I feel like maybe this is where it'll blow our minds to show us a completely different way that actually what's happening is turning in our favor that we can't see yet.
Yeah. I mean, the sun,
Like maybe it does take the grid out, but we have to understand when we're in there why. And it might be the thing that saves our lives.
I believe it will.
You know what I mean? Like instead of looking at it as the terrifying thing, it's like that might be the thing that brings true. It's so funny because it's the cross of the vessel of love, right? It's almost like something does arrive like a vessel. Like it's almost like it is it's so funny because they call that the kill shot from the sun, but it's the love vessel that shows up or something. It's like, I kind of like look weird at shit, but I'm like,
No. I love how you look at stuff. I feel like, so, I've had all these experiences on multiple levels of consciousness and like mystically and whatever, and pieced together this story that.
So yeah, that's the main lock. So like for, I forgot how many thousands of years, but the lock that started, I'll say it back. I won't show it. But so we started the cross of vessel love 33 BC. And it goes all the way to 3674 AD. So that's right, like a 3,700 year cycle within a larger cycle that goes 16,000 plus, which is a 20,000 year cycle, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's kind of interesting to me, is that like that lock sits there for 3,700 years at 25. There's other ones, but like the first one is the 25th one. So like you had that up and it's universe, but it's
Universal love.
Universal love, right? And the acceptance. And so,
And they say this is like the Big Bang gate. This is, the
which
gate.
it's so funny. They just came out last week saying the Big Bang is now not true, right? Like it's
Right.
so,
And even
right?
Ross said that there was a beginning before the start.
Right.
And the Big Bang was just the start. But previous to that, there was a state of
Yeah, now it's the black
wholeness.
hole, but what's on the other side of the black hole is the white hole. Like that's what it's all come down to. And that's kind of crazy because they're showing, like they're creating the image, but the image of a black hole, but the white hole, the other side that comes through, it's like the passageway or the gateway in, which is kind of interesting to me because it's like, I look at, so the shadow of of it is constriction, right? With universal love.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if it's going now to the 55th gate, I guess I'll put that up and we can go back and forth because that's kind of like interesting that we're moving from 37 to 55. And I think that it is important to look at the first gate because I do think in the lock, it's kind of like any code, like the first number is so important because if you don't know the first one, it doesn't matter the other ones.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like in the 55th, you mix that. Oh, so freedom. That's crazy.
Tell me why.
Because if the shadow's constriction, but you're getting to a gate that actually offers you freedom
Twice.
that your victimization about what's happening is the constriction now, just being the victim. Like, I can't believe the universe pulled the rug on the fucking system.
Right. And that's the whole.
And that's what you see people squabbling about right now on news networks, on TV over the last 5 years is we need to have the system. I can't believe they're thinking about taking this away. It's like, do you wake up and is your dreams just in the system all day? Like that is a weird thing to be connected to or attached to. I'll take freedom because I know we're not in freedom because I don't believe in full free will until we actually feel like we can be free. And you can't be in a system that we're in and have free will.
No.
Because I think like people like you and I or other spiritual people who left like the system as much as we could, which is, you know, a larger majority than many people do. Like that's freedom. Like, whoa, like I don't have nobody telling me what to do here, you know? And that's kind of a weird feeling to get out of that program. But I couldn't imagine somebody who's continued most of their life and then come into this and then it's really actually fully pulled, meaning like we're actually still in the system, but kind of free of it, but still have to operate in it. Like that's where the free will thing for me is kind of like, But this is kind of the thing that is hard to show in astrology, but using it with human design makes more sense to show the opportunity that arrives for free will. The freedom is part of the universal love. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the vessel of love that's like being gifted to us. But it might not come in the way that you feel because it might feel like something is taken away or constricted, being the victim of like, but I really enjoyed like going out to that nightclub and doing, you know, it's like how Raw says with manifestors are going to feel like they got the rug pulled, like, fuck. You know, because I see that's like a big complaint in the world of like, you know, not self people on the media and stuff is very much like the system, it must run.
And it wasn't really people.
Right. That's the weird part.
That were the origin point of a lot of the systems in the first place. So it's like, it's that whole idea of Stockholm syndrome and like feeling more comfortable as a captive than given the true liberty to exercise your free will because it's kind of overwhelming. And I think like that's, you know, that's what the sun offers us in the sense that it does have a reset built into it. Every, you know, like there's even theories that like the idea of like the return of Christ is actually a metaphor for the solar flash.
Right.
That and the whole Revelations thing and fire and brimstone is actually
Right. I would say 100% I align with that more than some dude popping up out of nowhere.
right. It's like in our memory, you know, and it's like in all of the cave paintings, you know, a lot of the stuff they're depicting that they're like, oh no, it's extraterrestrials.
Right.
No, it's like the plasma from the sun that they freaking saw before they ran into the cave, and we're some of the only ones that survived. And it would be interesting to look at the last time that the last Sleeping Phoenix, if there was some kind of solar event like that, because
There was.
It would explain the kind of differentiation of the tribes and why a lot of them disappeared and why there's little record of that time, because maybe it was just the people that went underground. You know?
There was, because like I follow Ben Davison for like 12 years, you know, and he's Space Weather News, and it's like the carbon data stuff about the sun, like it's every 12,000 years and then every 6,000 years. So we're in that cycle of that, you know, it's like 6,300, but we're like due for something. And so there's like major events that are like widespread, and it's hard to tell if this is the next one going to be like the full out, but meaning we're all gone, or just like, okay, humanity goes through, and this is what blows my mind, is under this first freedom is the great change.
Right.
To me, that's more of like what it is, not the great disaster, the great change. Like it's just a change of things, and it makes you more free, even though you think you're free now, you're not. And then the underlying part, the spirit of the future epoch.
It's just the spirit, though.
Right.
And I think the difference between those two freedoms is that the green one right there is individuals like ourselves beginning to kind of work in a more unified, higher self-driven way of cooperation, right? That doesn't need a system, because it has a self-organizing system within it, because it's anchored in a higher consciousness. Whereas that freedom on the top, the great change, is people who are born with that their consciousness is not limited to their body anymore. That's what the raves are. So they can sit there. They don't have bodies that move. For everyone that's wondering, raves don't move. You can maybe move them, but they don't have like the physicality to like even want to walk over there as opposed to be here. They're very just inert. But they do have a consciousness that can go stand over there and go stand in the airport and be anywhere.
It's almost like a remote viewer that's way more gifted.
It's like embodied remote
Yeah.
view. And so, and that's just, you know,
can move the energy. Like some remote viewers can like kind of like open up a cabinet file and like kind of sort through, right? Yeah. But like actually be there and actually change energy and connect with other beings that meet at that spot.
Right.
And do things together and synergize and have a conversation that nobody could even see, and then that's like another level stuff. Like, wait, what?
So like the internet. I always say all our technology is an externalization, Richard Rudd says this too, of our true latent capacities.
Yeah.
So we've had this internet that's actually just an externalized technological version of a consciousness network that's already possible or is becoming possible with our evolution as a species. And we can think about that in so many of the other things that are coming out right now. Everything that you have as technology was based on something in the body. The camera's based on the eye, the microphone's based on the ear, you know? It's like, if we really look from that perspective that we are the origin design of pretty much everything in this Maya, like we're actually returning to us being the central hub of the Maya rather than all this. I mean, it's cool. This is the time of the mind. We came to do this. We came to do our thing. That's great. I'm not saying this is all like of the devil, but you know, it's taking us into this more pure access to our capacity as consciousness. And the whole experiment of humanity and the earth is, can consciousness become fully aware of itself while in the density of form, right? And how many millions and trillions of different ways do we have to overcome that forgetfulness or that separation of like, no, I'm not this chair, or no, I'm not you. Actually,
well, and that's so beginning of Pisces is like the shadow being victimization is like, it's very 12th house. It's very much like what's being removed and detoxified out of your life was not aligned for you spiritually.
That was happening for you.
Right. That's how, so it's actually like the shadow is this attachment of like, I got screwed. This got taken out of my life. The not self is I'm a victim because it got pulled away. The self is like, well, God just removed that. Thank you. Like, because that opens the door to a free
possibility.
Imaginative. Because I love that it's the dragonfly's dream, because that's much more like Piscean. Like Pisceans are the greatest dreamers in the universe. And for them, they know better than anybody. Oh, that happened because that would have been horrible and I wouldn't have been dreaming. And I stopped dreaming anyways. Usually it's the moment when you're not dreaming that the thing gets pulled away to finally allow you to open up and have the freedom to dream again and to move through. And it's interesting because it's connected to the channel of romance, the 39th gate. And so that's so interesting that we're in this major lock about the vessel of love. And so when we're talking about love etherically, spiritually, from the ether, from the Maya itself, like from every plane, it's interesting that it is really bringing in the ability to come into that channel of romance, to understand a different version of it, right?
Right, because romance is like, oh, when I finally attain that thing, then I'll be free. That person, that job, that lifestyle, whatever, that level of spiritual activation. It's like this postponement of like what freedom is, because it has to take one certain form that's usually designed by the ego. And that's actually the source of victimization. I won't be free until I have it this way. Well, that's not true, because you don't know. You just don't know. There's no way you can know. And that kind of loops back to what we said in the beginning. Like,
and so is 39 part of the new cross we're coming into, or is it not?
It's not in penetration. No, I don't think so.
Like, so it's like, it's something that you kind of have to, if like, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of shooting from my, I always will call myself an intermediate human design guy, that if you have a gate, and whether it's from the body or the design chart, and it's reaching out towards that other gate that's empty, so it doesn't complete the channel, right?
Hanging gate.
Oh, that's right, hanging gate. So if there's a hanging gate, there's still a conscious way to understand, even if you don't have it. It's almost like, I think, one of the better lesson plans of understanding that gate to make that channel happen, even though there's nothing there. Does that make sense?
It's going to happen from your connectivity with the outside and other people and transits. You have the receptor, so by nature, it's going to attract what's on the other side to that receptor.
Okay.
And every time that happens, every time it makes contact, that whole channel is flashing on for you. And then it flashes off. And so you have this contrast. You're like, oh, I know this energy well because it's come in and out of my life so many times. Whereas if you have the channel all the time, you don't have the reference of the alternative. So you don't know it as well. It may be a part of you and you may be running on that. That's why projectors are great at guiding energy, because they don't have the sacral generator energy.
Right.
That's what makes them good at knowing what to do with
no motors, period, right? So
I think they can have, a projector can have...
Well, like they're not built to like...
Not energy types.
Yeah.
But there's, root to solar plexus projectors that have motors. And there's ego projectors too.
Right. So that's interesting, because I feel like that's always something that, I think as we have the next year and a half left of this, like for all the info, for people to get these gates and understanding of where we're going and then know those hanging gates. Because if you understand both, then, you know, when it pops up, then you can connect to that and make that a connection. I think that that's important. I think that people actually should start moving a lot of their research into this place at the last year and a half here, because I think Rob says it best, just like, you know, this human design is here for this moment, and it's what will continue. And that's, if you know your strategy and authority, you'll make it through. And I think you can know those and make it through. But I think to make that so much better and so much more aware, just even understanding what this gate is. I mean, it's kind of like, I'm somebody, maybe that's my one line. I just want to know what I'm walking into, you know, in anything I do. Like, I don't like to, I'm curious. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm the kind of person who asks, like, oh, look what you did to your house. Like, what was that like? Yeah. You know, like the stupid little things to me are a big thing. I don't know. I think it just might help people, but maybe that's just all the one lines that are watching. They'll be like, oh yeah, fuck yeah.
But when everybody with a fear motivation, because they love the details too.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting because we're in a line one right now. We're in a line one phase of the cross of planning. The profile numbers go backwards in terms of the larger cycles. So we started in a line 6 phase of the cross of planning, and we've dwindled down to now we're in the first line phase. So this is the time of foundational detail, how to do it. It's a time when a ton of people are learning how to do stuff they could have never learned before because of the internet. It's about, you know, questioning all of the decisions that are made. It's about questioning the narratives that are put before us as like what we're doing right now, like why we should even be living life a certain way. And then in 2027, we go into
the 6th line,
the 55-6. So it's going to be the 6th line of gate 55, which...
Isn't that light energy too? Like 6th line in color?
Right. Yeah. It's about, in terms of awareness, it's like really about your aura.
Yeah.
Like being able to, like, you know, if you were clairaudient or, you know, clairsentient, it would be able to like be able to read something through the auric contact.
Yeah.
And so it does have to do with like the encoded information in light. It also has to do with the role model archetype.
Right.
Whereas,
So I was asking, like, I was going to ask this, like, because there's 2 parts of that. There's before you're not on the roof, and then on the roof, and then off the roof. Like, is there something about it being where we're going to be in this beginning part of the 6th line of the Sleeping Phoenix, where it's almost like a 6th line coming into this life, or a 3 line where it's like a whole Saturn cycle of it really being the ups and downs and trying to figure it out, and then finally, okay, we're on the roof. We can kind of get it now a little bit.
To be honest, I think it might be that we start on the roof because it's going backwards.
Oh, wow.
So it's like we won't actually see the full crash and burn trial and error until probably 50 years into the Sleeping Phoenix, right? Because that would be when we were going back.
Yeah, and that
down.
would be actually the Chiron return of it, of us entering.
Right.
Which is going to be ironic that it's Chiron moving into Taurus at the very beginning of Taurus. So it's like
the earth.
The victim is oh my God, but it's going to heal the earth.
It's going to finally
That's crazy.
heal that leaking wound.
Yeah.
And I think that also has to do with the interplay with the sun, because like I was starting to say, like what I have seen in these conversations.
Oh, if you get closer to the mic.
These conversations with like the consciousness of our planet, like she doesn't want all this crap all over her, you know, and who's going to help her get some of that off? Who's strong enough? Who's big enough? It's the sun. Without having a full like cataclysmic meteor come, it's these solar blasts that basically solve the parasite infestation. And I'm not saying all human beings are that, but there's clearly a interfering force here in this world that's very subtle, and it's very kind of nefariously woven itself in between all the things here and siphons energy from us subtly, and sometimes we can't even see it or know where it is, but it's this middleman energy,
Right.
that's getting in the way of our true nature as spiritual beings having a physical experience. And we don't have to be in a phase of forgetfulness and not knowing our origins and not knowing our true values or what really makes life good. That's been something that's been worked in over the generations. And if we don't get it right ourselves, I think from time to time, the planetary consciousness is like, well, reset it, because this is not what was intended, you know?
Yeah,
Just
it's
being
like,
eaten alive.
especially that the sixth line is auric light. It's almost like, how did all these indigenous tribes back in Africa for thousands of years have always known their ancestry line, right? Like, it's all about your ancestors. We're talking to their ancestors. Like, to them, they're not about physical things.
Yeah.
It's the only continent that never got the parasite to ever try to take it over. Like, and everybody's tried, right? Every Western, even China's trying right now. Everybody's tried to take over Africa. The Nazis even tried. And they always fail. And the Africans always go, we just want to offer you the spirituality. And everybody's like, I'm looking for gold. I'm looking for rubber. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for slaves. I'm looking for this.
Yeah.
Right? But they're like, we're just here to talk, to help you talk to your ancestors. And I feel like that's where people are like, well, if it's going to all be gone, how am I going to do anything? It's like, what do you mean? If you're going to be able to see your ancestors, or I'll be able to see your ancestors and talk to them, or whatever, that's a whole different world. Like, that is a whole, and maybe that's where what you're talking about, that parasite, it's very much like we're in a world where the frequencies of, whether it's jets with fucking what, God knows what fucking new metal is being sprayed,
Yeah.
to every frequency from satellites to cell phone towers to everything, plus all the human beings are the most powerful electromagnetic beings on the planet. I think that when Gaia is like freaking out about too much stuff, it's because it's creating the electromagnetic field of human beings to shut themselves off from herself. Like,
Yeah,
it's not so much that she cares so much that it's an oil spill or something. It's that you're not in your nice, good spiritual space that's causing the oil spill. That's causing. Now,
Yeah.
I think it's more crazy, right? I think the most toxic thing is people losing their minds into only being on their phone and being separate. That's worse than an oil spill to Gaia. It's like
One
Yeah.
layer of the separation was just being focused in the physical, away from the spiritual, which is the source of life and where the designs of life live. And now we're going so far even past the illusion of the physical into the illusion within the illusion, and getting lost within that and getting sucked into that and scanned into that and cloned into that. And it's like, if you were watching your child go down this terrible road, I mean, yeah, you have a lot of compassion for them.
you would.
But there's a point at which it's like, enough is enough. Like, you're not even yourself anymore, and you can't even remember where the starting point was.
I agree, and I think that's where I think because we're coming to the end of this, like this last year and a half, that clinging on to that is going to be very extreme, like the most extreme thing you could ever even imagine. I think that's why people feel this fourth turning, this idea. Of course, it's a Uranus cycle. I mean, it's so funny how these people out there on X and stuff, they're so lost. They think, oh, somebody figured out the fourth cycle and it's on an 80-year thing. It's like, hello, it's the fucking Uranus cycle. It's stupid. It's so stupid that people are like, oh, and they make it this bigger deal than it's a big deal. But it's like, but the fourth cycle breaks us into this crazy or different place. I think that it's like sold as like the crazy moment, and that's true. But if you look at the fourth cycle of Uranus, you go back to, the 1770s, that we're at that. And that would have been, if you do another 4 cycles back, the beginning of the cross that we came into, basically. I think it would have been 3 cycles. So or it would have been 2. So there's 6 Uranus cycles in his aspect of it, which is kind of crazy if I think about it. In each cross, yeah. So it's really not the 4th turning, it's like the 7th turn. It's like the 6th to the 7th turning is the change.
Damn Uranus.
Which is kind of interesting. Maybe he got his color ideas through that because he doesn't really show a lot of Uranus stuff in the global cycle stuff. It's the Neptune-Pluto cycle stuff he's really interested in. And of course, like any prophet, they're not going to reveal Nostradamus or anything. You got to do that research yourself. Like it's not like I'm going to give you it all.
Yeah, you got to find the patterns.
You got to find it.
The patterns.
Yeah, and so it's like that's where to me I'm like, is it the 4th cycle? Sure, it is from America's standpoint. For its Uranus return, and of course that was Revolutionary War, Civil War, and then World War II, and now we're at the 4th one, right? So it's like that's why you're feeling like, But it makes more sense to me if like in that whole cycle though, you go back to 1615, it's like, oh, okay, you can look at it a little bit maybe differently. Like that's where this idea of freedom actually became, like it's the beginnings of like the English Civil War and getting rid of a monarch. And I think that's what blows my mind is like we're in a period where in the cross of planning is where all Western societies and even Eastern societies, except for the ones that have been left alone, or African societies that have been left alone, have created their whole planning in this cycle. So it doesn't matter if it's America or your monarch from the United Kingdom, Denmark, or whatever. There's something that's going to make it we're not doing that no more like that. And like, you know, everything, and I agree with you, like the only thing that really makes sense to me is the sun blast that allows that to happen, because then nobody cares about your money from the king in Canada. Right. Nobody cares about the government's not going to show up and do anything for you anyway, because people are not going to show up to work for the government. Right. So
that idea of rulership is just kind of pales in comparison and doesn't hold as much credit within our hearts and minds anymore, because we're not striving for the like treasures of the empire. We're not trying to get in favor with the king, because the king doesn't have any power here anyway. It's a much larger story than that.
Yeah, I think the last thing you would want is like, what's crazy, since you and I did our show, and it would have been interesting is at that time if it would have been revealed more, like how after our show, it's like Mark Zuckerberg, we find out, has built like this major bunker in fucking Hawaii, right? Or the Kardashians, they built their bunker in their under their fucking home in California. And then Bezos has the biggest bunker in the world with the atomic clock underneath the ground. So it's like these other people know something's coming, but they're not getting the higher spiritual version of it. They're getting the, what you want to, and that's what the scary part is, like people who are doomsday preppers here, it's like Encino Man times a million, like the worst scenario. Like I feel so, that's such a funny movie, but it's like his parents were so crazy that they closed the fucking bunker and they thought it was a nuclear war and it wasn't, right? And it's like that, I feel like you don't want to be in a bunker. It's quite the opposite. Yeah. Like you don't want to be in a bunker. Like that's not where there's going to be any life energy and no love energy. And that's where they're trying to trap people, I feel. It's like there might be something that's very, you know, nuanced, but I don't think it is. Like, or it's just kind of, maybe I'm just a crazy astrology prophecy. I love human design and I'm mixing it all together and going, yeah, there is a dark force out there, and I think there is a dark force that really is going to try and contain people to always stay in a time period and not leave it. They don't want this structure to end. And so they're willing to persuade people with the money and all the things that are seductive, that are not love, but are the things from the 37th gate in many ways, right? To kind of seduce people into, you're in the know and you've done all the good things like a good boy or girl to do it. And so we have a little room in this bunker for you. Right. You know, and that's why I think
the luxury model of what will be then kind of trickled down and offered to everyone else. Like, well, you can have a pod.
I mean, I think of NORAD in Colorado. It's in the middle of the fucking mountains, right? That's like America's biggest fucking defense place. That's where the military will go if there's a crazy event. And it's like in every crazy movie you always see, it's like, well, yeah, you're in, but it's always like the people that are like, oh, we got in the doors. Oh, go over here. And it's always like the lower end Marine, like, come with me. Let me help you find a little place to go. And I do.
37th gate.
Exactly. So I feel like there's that. We've seen this, like, what all these puppets doing on TV and world leaders are doing are acting like they don't know what's going on when they know what's going to happen, but they are also reacting in a way that is means that the parasite is controlling them because they're acting in the parasitic way of maintaining and never letting go of the system in ways that would only look like maintaining the system.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And I think that there's a secret remote viewing program that sends the wrong images to their remote viewers so they see the wrong future and prepare for the wrong thing.
Yeah, because it can be misinterpreted as Neptune's coding and programming is, right? Because I think you can say, well, I'm doing all the energy work to clear my connection, but usually a lot of the remote viewers are doing it for somebody else. It's always really weird. Have you noticed that? Whether it's the CIA or whether it's like a group of people and it's like, hey, we need to, and it's always to prove again that they're right, or to prove they understand the UAP situation, or to try and uncover what the government's doing. Because even though that seems like a really noble task, it's still a very big thing of like, well, I know it, and my way of showing people and monetizing it and creating it in that way, right? So it's like, ooh.
Yeah. More Wizard of Oz shit, basically.
Right. And you can get to where it's like very much like, yeah, there was a remote viewer who posted like about the LA riots right now. Like, yeah, we had just in February drew a city with flames and fire. Wow, I'm like, well, I mean,
that's so original.
I don't,
like I've never thought of that before. That's crazy.
Or it hasn't been on the billions of televisions in every other movie for the last 60, 70 years straight.
I just saw some, headlining performer. I just on like the YouTube feed doing some performance at some award thing, and it was like this person coming back to the stage for the first time, and everything in the backdrop of the stage is just burning apartment buildings. Like that's what she was dancing in front of. And I'm just like, what is this crap? Like you just have to keep going. And then she turns into a robot, of course. And like, it's just like, it's the same freaking trope every time. Like it's so transparent, the programming of it all. And it's like, if you see something happening in the world that matches the predictive programming that's in all this crap,
right,
you know that it's an isolated tiny event that's meant to seem bigger than it is, to make a certain narrative appear as if it's happening, to control consciousness, to get everyone to believe that something is happening this way. The world is big.
With the guys, I think with Saturn, Neptune now in Aries, that's going to conjunct is like with the guys of like, we're lifting the veil, but there's a control mechanism around it. Like, here, look underneath. We're the ones who showed you this is the way to go. And it's almost like where they're throwing the time travel thing out. I made a fun joke with you when we were looking at all the lock and the keys for the lock, right? And especially the gates for the lock. I was like, man, that'd be cool to use AI in this next year and a half and train it to like actually use that to input if there was real time travel. And if there is, are they using a correct system, and are they really trying to get people to come back into this time again? Because they don't want to end the planning.
Right. And I literally have had dreams about this where they get us to, in the dream, it was to 2024, and I had the dream way before 2024. And then they just kind of and just like send us back the way we came, so that it can still be about products and resources and, like group consensus. Like, come on, everybody. Yeah.
Right.
We're kind of like, I guess, kind of like Hunger Games, but the rich people in Hunger Games, where everybody was kind of like, yeah, this is good. This is for the good of the kingdom, you know, like that kind of mentality of like, everybody has to affirm, yes, right now, this is like what we want. Anyway, in this weird dream that several dream, you know, downloads that I got, it was this thing that was controlled by the Zetas that was trying to keep us going back into this, basically this timeline where we blended with another parallel Earth in which they were already in control. So it felt like, it would feel like, oh yeah, we're going to the future. Everything's getting so futuristic and technologically advanced. When actually we were melding with a parallel system where it had already fallen and it was under control. And what we perceived as advancement was actually increasing control. But I don't think that happened because when we got to 2024, I did not see that timeline unfold. So I don't believe that we're doing that, which is nice.
So I've never said this before. I'm going to say it here. So, and I know this might sound stupid, but it's fucking brilliant, I feel. So Grand Theft Auto is one of the biggest games, and they have not updated that bitch for over like 10 years. It's actually, I think, 11.
Yeah.
And so they've worked so hard on it. It releases next year in 2026, finally. And all they're doing in the last month has been dropping like some beginning like footage and what it's going to be like. And it's interesting because I found out through a buddy of mine who, my buddy Torque, I'm like, because he does a lot of visual stuff. He's a sound healer. He's amazing. He's on the level. And him and I are very much into virtual reality and augmented reality and so forth. And we were talking, and it's like, so Grand Theft Auto is going to have in it the beginnings of this idea of Ready Player One.
Okay.
Meaning if you choose in the game to steal a car, right? Or get in a fight with somebody in the game or do something, that your crypto account's hooked up and you can lose it all in the game.
Right.
And the way that they're also positioning every app, every like the new iPhone and everything right now is I mean, I just watch all the development stuff. Like it's all built into this game. But my prediction is in this game near the end, it allows people to connect that maybe didn't, because it's going to be very much like, not so much like I play the game and just kind of walk around by myself. It's going to be very much you're on the internet and you're talking with other people and you're all in this fucking crazy world together, right? It's kind of like this like maybe wake up simulation to connect you with the people and go, yeah, we ain't going to go through this. So like for shits and giggles, is like I got the hit, like let me see what they just brought out and I'm going to show people what they just. So it's like kind of so real in a weird way. This is all they're leaking, but like see how you're like crawling, like they are going to have every bit of everything in this game to where it's like you're like in the Sims but GTA style, with the ability to hook your money up and like get life, buy clothes. It's all going to be like in this game. Like this is the beginning of it all. Like, and it's kind of crazy because it reminds me of the end of the cross of planning and its demise ending, that it almost is like, don't be afraid to play the game. In many ways, I think we might be able to understand the end of it in the simulation, because in many ways it's like watching ourselves in the simulation. It'll be like a weird
training simulator.
But also watching the fall of it, because in this game it's like, you know, if you've played the original GTAs, right? Like, I mean, you just the more fucking helicopters and the more cops you get, the more fun the game is, right? And I think that there is maybe a undercurrent of learning that, you can't make a game like that and have a system work perfectly. Everybody's gonna not follow the rules, right? So that's the idea of that game, right? Is like, no, people didn't want to be restricted into, I have to play the character and do the, I want to be able to just be like, I want to steal this grandma's car right now. Fuck it. And I want to drive it around, and then I want to, you know what? I'm in the mood. I just feel like stealing the jet right now and fucking going through LAX and popping a couple people while I'm in there. And oh my God, the FBI's on me, and I got 5 stars down. Oh my God, they're trying to shoot me down. Now I know that's an extreme thing, but that's the idea of like where I think we need to see, like, there is no way for the planning to ever work. That game is the proof of it to me, is that we are naturally not built to be stuck in a matrix like that. And I think it's really interesting that that game is going to have, like, you watch next year when it comes out in May, it's going to be like the thing that everybody is doing. Like, it will be the thing that everybody will do. It'll be the way that maybe even some people will have to like make money. I mean, it's that crazy of how it's going to be set up, of like, you make money, you lose money, like Ready Player One. That's why there's such a delay on it, is like all the aspects are being put in. But I do feel like it is the kind of moment to wake up, or it could be a little dangerous moment of getting stuck in. But I think we'll know more as we get closer. But I think that's kind of like a crazy way of looking at, like, no system can contain you. And I think that's the power of this last part, is get all the information that you can. Start really allowing yourself to break part of the system, and not feeling that you have to prove yourself in this system. There's nobody to prove yourself to at all. And like, especially now, like, it's over. Now it's the illusion that's fully the illusion left. Would you agree, or what do you think?
I think that I don't think we've tasted a lot of what the best parts of this world are, because we've been so caught up in the cross of planning and all that it's asked of us and our ancestors. And so I think that, you know, this is the beginning of a time in which there's a lot of support, like you're saying, to get the information, to get the people, to get the land, get the resources that will help you make a transition that really matters when the cross ends and the new one begins. And I think once that takes place, you know, we don't have to worry so much as human beings, because we're so limited. And that's okay. Like, I don't need to prove that I'm not, you know, like none of us do. But I do think we need to focus more on being the humans that we are, and really, maybe we've been completing the era of the mind at great sacrifice to ourselves. We need to complete our humanness.
Right.
Because that's kind of what we'll be left with when all of this burns, you know, metaphorically. So, yeah, I think this could be a great time to, you know, even when we think of great recessions or great changes in the world, wars and stuff like that, there's always people that, they're like iconic people that are made, billionaires and household names rise and fall at these big changes, these big like apertures in our history. And I think a lot of us that have been spectators and have been collecting data and people and resources, connections, like, this is a really good time to, especially with Jupiter in Cancer, I think, make the moves, like do the things that matter to you. Don't keep fueling a dying system that's going to go poof, and where you're giving all your life force right now to just feel safe, feel like the job is protecting you, whatever, like, it's not going to be here that much longer anyway. So why give another ounce of energy to it? Do what you really want to do. Find the way, connect, speak, inform, wait for the invitation, whatever it is. Like, do the thing that your soul wants you to do in the way that your soul wants you to do it. Like, do the post on Instagram that you want to do, not what you think you need to do to get 50 likes, you know, like, just take that core intention of authenticity into every corner of your life and get resourceful and get communicative and watch what you can actually do, because it's also showing us, you know, this is the end of the time of so much resources being available. Like people complain about social media and they're like, well, I don't want to post. I don't like it. And yeah, I can't get any new people in my business. And it's like, another perspective is you have access to free marketing. Like,
I know.
Use it. Don't make it your ego's battle to like be good and prove yourself on social media. Just get what you need from it. Start looking at these systems that you know are going to crumble and get what you need from it to do what's essentially important to you as a human being and go from there. You know?
You know, they just had done a study and it finally proved that like the highest, they put people in like a Faraday cage and then they like had them go through different emotions. And they were like, they thought, of course, love was extremely high, but the highest vibration that peaked more than anyone was authenticity. What humans respond to.
And that can look so many different ways.
It can look so many ways.
Authenticity is not one thing. It's whatever you're feeling in that moment.
Yeah, it's that and just the transparency of somebody just being like, just like connecting with somebody and just being like, not putting up a show. Cause I feel like there's also been like, there's this one guy I just watched on the CEO podcast, that guy, and it's about like being charismatic and how you put yourself out there. And it's like, I've seen this my whole life being in the club scene and stuff. It's like, you know, the people when they go to a bar and then they're just kind of sitting there and they're looking around like on their phone. That's a sign of like, I'm extremely uncomfortable and I'm just hoping somebody will come break the ice, but I'm not going to go break the ice, right? And what happens? Most of the time you go home, nobody does come up to you. But he did experiments with his buddies. Like, okay, I'm only me and you. We're going to sit here. We're going to have a good time. And we're just going to connect. We're not going to be on our phones. We're not going to be like, okay, so where's the people at? Where is it? And we're just going to synergize and just stay in our connection in our authentic moment. And every time everybody came to them, and it's like fucking insane how I feel like the cross of planning itself is the definition of the cross of the not self.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah.
And it's like, because all you see are people like, I'm trying to look cool. I got done up, but I'm just sitting here on my phone. And so also another thing, he's like, I've noticed with big CEOs or anybody and like whoever is their like second, third person assistant, they'll look. And if they start looking at you like with their eyes, but not their body, that means they're going to get in trouble or they don't feel like they're safe if they show like, I'm interested in just looking in this direction. Mm-hmm. And I see so many people like, right? Where like a normal charismatic person will just be like, nothing to worry about. What's good? Yeah, that's cool. And then back, right? It's like these little things I think are part of the not self people have to look at. Like if you're really like trying to attract what you think in your crazy idea of like the world's attracting like this whole like, just this whole like idea of like, oh my gosh, I'm the law of attraction.
Right.
It actually doesn't work. The human design system works, the strategy and authority, but I think people forget that not self blanks all of it out. Like it just completely blanks it all out. And being that not self is like a projector looking for an invitation, not waiting for one.
Exactly.
A generator looking for something to respond to, not genuinely just being yourself and just waiting for the response to just show up. And then and it's got to feel like a fuck yes and not right. It's so simple.
And this is the cool thing about Saturn and Neptune in the 25th gate, because the 25th gate is the gate of innocence. Mm. It's the gate of motiveless action, meaning that, like you just said, not looking for the invitation, waiting for it.
Right.
By being, like actively being yourself. I feel like there's such a opportunity being given at this subtle veiled level, Saturn and Neptune, like in the foundation of like our energy or what part of our DNA creates energy, that if you can go back to that default of your strategy and authority at this precipice point, it's almost like this freebie program. Like, we know it's not going to. So just get in your design and be present, be authentic, and watch it work for you. Right. And that's why Ra was saying at this turn of the ages, this will be the only way to navigate. The mind won't be equipped to navigate in this new frequency. It just won't, because of the solar plexus mutation, because of the changing of the larger cycles, because of the, societal safety net collapsing. You're only going to be able to move from this embodied place. So that's the most valuable skill to focus on.
Yeah.
Is to actually be present, authentic, and embodied, and realize that your mind is the passenger and always was. And that's everything we teach in human design. Passenger consciousness, not I'll figure it out every step of the way 50 years ahead of time and get in my bunker and just know that, no, you get in the bunker and then that's where the volcano explodes.
Right.
Like you just have to be real vibrant and living and breathing with your authenticity. Isn't also just this like virtue signaling. I'm being so authentic right now. Like I have this tattoo and like, I'm wearing whatever I want. No, it's this state of vibration. It's a state of frequency. And it's an absence of the preconditions of the mind of what any moment needs to be. It's just about showing up to that moment, like what all the traditions of mindfulness and meditation and Buddhism have been trying to teach, like just to get us back into the moment where everything is possible.
Which transcends every cross and every lock moment, every, 6,000 plus, or every, 3,700 years. But all of it, it all transcends, because I just imagine right now, let's say the earth takes all the power goes out, but like that's the worst. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, and now I'm like at a camp and I'm making my tent. And I already can see somebody with all the people around with their tents or whatever, doing the same thing at the bar. Somebody gonna come talk to me?
Right.
Somebody gonna
that part.
Like that never goes away. That's never gonna go away. Through every cross, through anything that happens, there's gonna be people in the not self being like, oh my gosh, like, and right. But it's like when you're just responding to, if you're a generator and you're just like, okay, the tent, I gotta make the tent. Somebody will naturally just come up to you if it's meant to be and be like, hey, do you need help with that?
Yeah.
And if you're like, oh, this person's cool, I want to respond good, boom. Oh, do you want to come meet all my buddies and all my friends? Boom. It wasn't get the tent done as fast as I can and look good and sit there and wait for somebody to look at me. Like there's going to be a lot of that peak volatility of triggers of so many people trying to do the same old system in the new world.
Exactly.
It's going to be fucking weird. And I think people are going to be able to see with that sixth line now, like, look at that aura that you naturally have just go whack, disappear. It's actually going to just, the not self, like almost takes the aura completely away, I feel. I mean, we'll be able to like see what that looks like.
Back in the day in like Australia, the Aboriginal people like couldn't see the sailing ships coming to shore because they had no reference point. They couldn't even see the ships until the people were there. It's like the same idea. Like that energy will have so little reference point to the environment that it'll make you invisible. You're basically signaling like,
it's not that the aura disappears where you're not even there. Nobody sees you.
So that's important.
Because that's fucking mind blowing. Because like, at least in the cross of planning, it likes to see, even if you're not in the not self, that you are a physical not self. But in the sleeping phoenix, it's almost like the penetration is so deep that you have to really see the truth and the veil's lifted. And it's like, yeah, you're not there, but that's because I'm saying it because I don't see anything there. It's not because I'm directing it at you individually right now because I don't see it. And so people feel that way already in this cross of planning. Like, I don't feel seen. I don't feel like I've accomplished things. I just want, and it's all because they're looking at what other people did and they think it's so great. And really it's like, I just want to be a carbon copy of that in my way.
Right.
And that's not, I mean, I think that was like part of what the system was to have it run, but also so much unhappiness, so much stress, so much, I think
so little creativity,
so little
intelligence.
And as somebody who got that in every level in my life, luckier than most, I can tell you it didn't fulfill the void that I thought it would fill. And I think that's what you hear from a lot of people too, who ever get those things that sometimes people.
It's empty.
It's actually more empty than you think. Yeah, it's like so. Like that, like no, I know that's gonna be the hardest trigger. The people who felt like, but I got in this thing and I didn't get that. It's like, trust me, you're not missing out. You know, like, and if anything, you're going into a space now where there's something much greater, and that's what's cooler about this time period is we get to go define something way cooler, way more connected to love, and way more free and way more. I don't know, just like the ultimate like adventure that we could never have possibly had until what's happening.
Exactly.
So really, I think it's like, make sure you make it to this place, because the system will definitely try to close people from it.
Just because it can.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jupiter in Cancer. Get that stuff.
Don't you have that in your chart?
I think it's my Jupiter return today.
Yeah, that's what it's today?
Pretty much. I'm 0 degrees.
Oh, that's
Jupiter
right.
Cancer.
Yeah.
It's like 49 minutes. 49 minutes.
Oh, so it's in like
Couple
2
hours.
days. Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah. It comes to 1 degree in like 2.5 days. So, dude, what are you doing for your Jupiter return, bro?
Well, tomorrow I'm having a little just like online talk about like the patterns that I've seen over the years.
Oh, nice.
Calling it the Rave Way Shower transmission.
Oh, that's dope.
And starting to invite people to some of these in-person events that we're
Yeah, you got that
producing.
one in September, right? Near the
And then
equinox.
we're going back to the pyramids in April
Oh, damn.
for that Regulus alignment that I
Yeah,
sent
that's
you.
crazy.
Because that will bring a specific frequency of like the royal star of like the protector.
Right.
And then we get to work with that.
Wow. That's actually an amazing time astrologically and everything. And a way to exit the matrixy plan we've been in. I was going to say that my son's going to have Jupiter very close to yours,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he's due in less than 2 weeks. And what's crazy is his son will sit on your Jupiter too.
He's going to be his early Cancer. That's so cool.
Yes, so you'll definitely
Wow.
be
What
in
a,
his life in some sort of
what
way.
a blessing.
Yeah, because I know so many Jupiter Cancers, like Brian, you, Natalie, Abby. The list
Wow.
of Jupiter Cancers is crazy through
And
my
they're close,
friends. Like,
yeah.
I know. I'm like, now my son, and it's funny because Sophia's Jupiter Aries at 5 degrees. I'm Jupiter Capricorn at 5 degrees.
Wow.
And then like Brian, I think, was always Jupiter at 5 degrees Cancer. So he always held that spot. And then I think Lauren was like Jupiter Libra at 5 degrees. So it was always crazy. It was like there was always
Oh,
like
wow.
all 3 Jupiters
Cardinal.
or all 4 Jupiters. But with our family, it's like, oh, wow, my daughter has Jupiter in Taurus. So, and Uranus. But like, it's like, okay. So now between my wife and I, it's like, oh my gosh, our son's going to have Jupiter square and oppose us. Like, it's very interesting, the dynamics. When you look at like charts, I can't wait to see his human design chart, you know? Because like, it's like really cool. Because like, even though my wife and my daughter's astrology is different, they're both emotional generators. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that connection is so powerful to understand and see. Even though my daughter's a double Leo like me and all this stuff, it's like, nah, there's the emotional generator part.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually somewhat overrides the mechanics of what's happening. The understanding of a more like different level, right? That astrology level, the double Leo, it's like, yeah, of course, her and I are going to have like that fun making jokes and tickling and laughing and just like, and like, let's watch the show. Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's where I think it's just so beautiful. So I've been
That's why I
like
love
thinking
being
about that.
around
Like,
these.
wow, I know a lot of people with Jupiter Cancer, you know?
I mean, my life was so different last time Jupiter was in Cancer. So I'm
Right.
I'm excited to see what it does this time. Because last time it was doing good stuff, but it wasn't at a level that I was even aware, you know, like I wasn't aware of like what my life was really about back then.
Oh, I told people the other week, it was more pressure last time. It was Jupiter came into Cancer and it went through the Pluto-Uranus squares. So Jupiter came into T-square both, and then Mars went retrograde in Libra in 2014. And then there was eclipses in Aries, Libra. So it was like eclipses, square Jupiter in Cancer, square fucking Pluto in Capricorn, with Uranus in fucking Aries, and then Mars retrograde in Libra. And that was the peak moment of like Jupiter Cancer getting no benefic moment. Like it's just like, I have to keep everything okay and everybody safe through this hellhole of like, just there's no way out. It was like rough as fuck. That was 2014, September 2014. I'm like, I'll never forget. I did that horoscope fucking on the back of my truck, looking at a sunset and being like, it's beautiful, but it doesn't feel beautiful energetically,
right.
you know?
Right.
Like it was like just, and I remember being like, I knew because sun sign cancers, but then if you look at it from a Jupiter Cancer perspective, that would be like, oh man, this is different. The Saturn Neptune is like, there's nothing in Capricorn. We'll never see anything big there.
Yeah.
So that takes the restorative energy of Jupiter and Cancer, like at full, like it's restoring the well.
I feel that.
You know what I mean?
Even in the last like just 5 days ish that it's been
Yeah.
around or kind of around, I already just felt like
Right.
this wave of almost like rich, like if the air can be filled with like life force and sometimes it's not, like I just felt like it just filled the air with like energy, aura.
Yeah,
I
it
was
got
like,
all the dirty particles out of the ions in the air and stuff. It's like,
It just lifted me up a little. I was like, oh, okay. I have been carrying for a while now. It feels nice to be lifted a little bit in this moment.
Right.
And I'm going to just flow with this.
Actually, because I know we should end the show, but it's like my final thing for you, since it's been 3 years since we did this show, it's like, as a Pisces, what does it feel like to have Neptune out of Pisces for this moment that we've had for since March 31st? Because that's like, to be a Pisces, to have your native planet in its sign, it takes 165 years, and it's been since 2011. And now it's out, and then Saturn was there, and now it's out for the moment until September 1st. But it's like, this is the first time in 23 years there hasn't been a outer planet major Pisces thing. It's like empty. I mean, the North Node's there, but it's like it's empty. Like, what do you think you've learned through the whole process as a Pisces?
How to be indestructible, how to go through any emotion, how to not need any external, idea of like, because basically there were moments all throughout that transit where the people and things that I felt supported by the most previously in my life all kind of like went away or turned or, so like this more unconditional sense of like okayness, no matter what's going on. And, I feel like I'm still integrating that transit, to be honest, because
that actually makes sense.
It doesn't feel like it's fully hit me in terms of like I'm looking back at it. Also because going into Aries brought so much new energy so quickly. And I still think that the forward movement of Jupiter in Cancer is kind of going to start to rearrange things and push things around that we're still kind of like settling from that. So I feel like I'm right before a time when I would actually be able to tell you exactly.
Honestly, that makes complete sense to me as an astrologer, because I would be like, that is a long transit and it's going to come back in one more time.
Right.
That it's like, it's not done, but it's like a break. And it's almost kind of like, I'll let you know after I have to go back in for the final countdown, but it's not going to be that extreme. It's more just kind of like, just you already know the lesson, just stay on the lesson kind of thing. Whenever a planet leaves a sign, comes back in, it's kind of like, all right, it's a breather.
When I actually look back at like, not so much at ending, but what was going on at the very end of it, I felt really pushed to do the biggest thing ever and try and make something, out of nothing, multiple different ways, just to kind of prove to myself that I was at a certain level of competency or success or like completion, or like that old problems were not problems anymore. And in doing that, it kind of like backfired. Like instead of taking the Pisces note of just like, it's all good, we're done now, I instead was like, no, I need this to be more meaningful, and like I need some big fat reward in my face that says that I did it, rather than just the freedom of not having as many burdens or issues or traumas or whatever. And that did not have the desired effect. Now I'm getting that lesson. But at the very end of it, it was kind of like this, 29-degree energy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this was the coming into 2025 was so crazy with the Venus retrograde that came back into Pisces and stood with Saturn for 3 weeks. I'd never seen a chart in my life with Venus on Saturn for 3 weeks. I'm like, what the fuck?
When was that?
That was April, March into April.
Yeah.
So it was April. And it was like 3 long weeks where Venus and Saturn were just a couple degrees apart, but they were even within a degree. And
That's when I downloaded all this stuff about doing the in-person stuff and going back to the King's Chamber and the Regulus, the Sphinx. Like,
wow.
When it was by the North Node, Venus and that was
Venus, Saturn, North Node.
That's when it all came through. I was like sick with food poisoning in Cairo and like sweating and just
oh my gosh,
getting all these downloads. And I thought that what I was being shown had to happen that night. And I was like, do I have to go to the pyramid right now? Like, I'm like checking with my guides, like right now? It's like, no, next year this time.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah. That's wild.
It was wild. It was freaky.
I know. I almost feel like maybe like, I'm kind of documenting some Pisces stuff to when all the information's figured out and we get into the new place, I'll be able to be like, so these Pisces told me this. Let the raves know. They already know probably. But
they're kind of, driving the ship from up there, I think.
Well, it's been great, man. I feel like we'll definitely continue these combos with New Dawn, because I feel like Before Dawn was so perfectly named for 2022. And now we're in definitely New Dawn time. We're still a little early, but I think it's...
Yeah, but I think that's on time to be early.
Yeah, it's on time. So I don't know if you have any last words, but I just appreciate the show. I know a lot of people love the show. And I just, it definitely, I've told people, I've said like, it's as a producer and like with High Vibe, in the cross of planning for me, it felt just a full blown, like, yes, that actually did create something that made me feel like it was worth everything.
Absolutely.
It did. Like one of the best, literally I've said, one of the best shows ever produced.
Such
a
ripple effect that created and is still felt and is still reverberating back. And it's always a great time to come and talk with you. So
I know, it was awesome. Till next time. So New Dawn, and we had fun making the thumbnail and putting ourselves visually now to show you. I don't know. That is such a crazy thumbnail. I'm going to process that one still for days. So cool. But thanks, brother.
Thank you, brother. Great to be back.
And everyone, thanks so much. And we'll see you on the next one, whenever it is. We're just going with, we're MGs. So you'll know when we come around.
Yeah, exactly.
Adios. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Monster.